What is this? El Cobre?
So, so I got onto the bestcigarprices.com and was just looking for
Old Faithful.
they had like discounts on sampler packs and different stuff. And this isn't like a sampler pack, but it's just like a pre-done box and really like in the 90s as far as reviews. So I've got plenty of those. And then these, which I haven't tried yet, were also on sale.
You said you tried these?
I've had one of those.
Okay, are they good?
I thought so.
Okay. Nice little thing.
And then these are Monte Cristos Grand Exhibition. I've had Monte Cristos before, first time in Clearwater, and I think they're decent. I've not tried these yet,
Okay.
but they were also in the 90s as far as ratings, but they had like a good deal going.
Okay, cool.
So I might start with one of these since I haven't tried that yet.
Alright. Is there only one other one?
No, I've got like 6.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, do I just sneak it now before talking?
Yeah, definitely help yourself.
Yeah, I'll start with this one. Oh, he's bringing out the rods. Ooh.
That's clean tobacco smoke.
That steak is tasty, Daniel.
Do what?
That steak is tasty.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where my guillotine went. Extra one pain. Perfect. It's actually
Probably gotta get the tunes going.
Pure pepper?
Stir pepper.
Yeah, I experimented with the placement a little bit because I don't know why, but these mics pick up the music way better than our ears seem to. So, like the first few episodes we did, when we had the speakers out, like we were playing them at like good volume for us, but like in those episodes, the music was like at the same level as our speaking, which is like not great. So it's like, I realized I need to like have it a bit lower. Major moves. Have you dived into Pavement very much? No? Just the songs I've recommended?
Not too much. Not at all.
Well, so I can't cut it. I need a good one.
Oh no. I think those cheap ones probably have a lifespan. That's probably
Less than 90 day, yeah.
And I just put these in the humidor too, so they're probably getting a little soft. I just don't always trust them coming from
These
Rens.
things, it's like they don't amount to much
No.
long term, but like for like $1, they get the job done.
I have thoughts on it, but I'll let you partake first.
Also, there's something about smoking a cigar indoors, like when you go into Rems and you smell that, like the room note of a cigar, it's like, that's good. I like that.
I agree with
I
that.
don't want my house to smell like that all the time, but
Yes.
like,
So that's what a third garage stall. Eventually, when kids are moved out, we've got room.
over there.
You know, kind of finish it out. Put some nice mahogany up. Get some leather chairs. And you can even put a little filtration system in. Although you really wouldn't need to. Like I've got this little guy here running.
The air purifier.
Yeah, it's just a cartridge, you know, but it'll pull a bunch of the particulates out of the air.
Yeah, our one we have at home is one of those like Lavoie ones that are like round. We probably
And Steve, Mr. Dominic is here.
Okay.
It's not white truck out there, so.
this would be a good spot for.
I think so. It's too small to really put a car in there,
Yeah.
and we can get someone to put their drums away.
Yeah. Mom ordered them, they're coming.
The Virginia cream.
Yes, I found that. I think, is that the one that you gave me?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't really smoked it though.
It's kind of spicy. I like it.
I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah.
I would say peppery and spicy.
Yeah, that's part of what I like about the brick house. when I first started getting into them, I was like, brick house is nice because it has that like punch to it, you know?
Yeah, like the Olivas are good, but they're so smooth that sometimes you kind of get halfway through the cigar and you realize like I haven't really thought about it much because it's just so smooth and easy to smoke. But sometimes you want something with a little punch to it. Did you tell him to ring the doorbell?
I sent him a message, but I don't know if he's on. You said he's here?
I'm pretty sure.
He drives that white truck.
I was pleasantly surprised going through the, I'm not all the way through them yet. I stopped at Beach Music, but going through a handful of the Alex G albums, and like, they don't miss.
They don't.
And some of the songs are like weird to the point of like, is this the same artist?
Yeah.
Like he sings differently and like he'll be in like a different genre of music completely.
Like, well, I was kind of talking about this with Andy and one of my other friends. It was kind of like, we're talking about Radiohead, and it's just like, just so good because they just meld with all these different genres in a way. It's like, you listen to like Kid A and it's so much different than like, you know, like in Rainbow or something like that.
They haven't had, aren't like crazy different, they've just had a really nice evolution.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't secure really.
But, you know, Alex is, yeah.
We'll get him one this time. So.
He's here. I put a bug on your seat.
Thanks. Oh man, well, I don't even have to
I know.
be too later.
Isn't this
It might
nice?
get too warm.
Just hanging out.
This is nice.
Hanging out in the garage.
It never stayed this warm in here, and then we decided to swap out the garage doors because they were old school. Like I don't know that it was actual wood
yeah.
panels; it was like pressed board, and you could see like light on each side. And so we swapped these out, and so that's an insulated door now. It has a styrofoam in the middle, and it stays pretty cozy out here now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have like much heating in here? Are there any like baseboards?
No, the only heat is whatever the furnace and hot water heater put off when they're doing their thing.
Oh, just like ambient heat?
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, it's all,
All the way down.
Nice, good.
that's, you know, it's all insulated around. So, yeah, what little heat's produced from those keeps it decent in here.
And I might, mainly, I might bounce around 8.
Sure, okay.
Because we're getting, well, we're like within the 1 month-ish mark. And she could use some me time instead of like,
Sure.
we're at Pat Tucker's party,
Yeah.
our party the next night.
Yeah.
Matt, Soper, and Delita came over for dinner the next night.
Wow.
And then randomly, I preached at our church. Did I send you guys that?
No.
Okay, I meant to. Because I don't do that. But our pastor takes December's off, I guess.
Oh.
Like, he's still there, but he just, like, he kind of opens it up to a few of the guys that he kind of, like, trusts and asks them if they want to preach one Sunday. And he asked me, and I was like, why would you ask me? But I say yes to virtually any adventure.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah. But you know, like how you kind of like prepare early, and then you're like, I'm good because I prepared early. And then it was like that this past weekend, I was like, I need to finish this. So it was just like a long, I stayed up and so. Anyway, she's like, could I like hang out with you a little bit? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fair. You said she's a month out?
Yeah, January 27th is the date they've given us.
Yeah.
And she's just getting to that spot where she's weepy today, she wants to fight tomorrow, she's like, the next day,
Right.
and then circles back, and so it's
Yeah.
like, all right, let's relax,
Yes.
let's ease into this.
The roller coaster pregnancy.
We're in the second trimester slump right now.
Yeah, but it's kind of nothing too weird's going on.
Just being happy to not have the nausea anymore, you know?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Does she get nausea much with hers?
No, she really doesn't.
Really? Yeah. Andrea would just a little bit in the first trimester, but not terrible.
For her, the worst part, it's just gotten worse with each pregnancy, is her gallbladder starts acting up.
Really?
And this is the worst one. Like, I think whatever else is going on that's like inherent to a pregnancy is just nothing compared to her gallbladder really bothering her.
Yeah.
So we're right now looking at like, well, do we take it out when you're done, or do this or that? So
Highly recommend against it.
yeah, I don't really like the idea of taking anything out. It's just, I don't know what the good alternative is. It like you take enzymes and stuff to help?
You could do a gallbladder flush.
We need to have you guys for dinner and
Yeah.
talk through some of this stuff.
You could Google it. There's like, it's pretty much lemon juice, olive oil. Like you put something else in it and you just chug that before bed. And then your gallbladder kind of goes through a spasm that shoots out all the gallstones and just clears itself out.
Okay.
And then wake up in the morning and have pretty interesting bowel movement. Sometimes you have to do it a couple times in a row, but
Yeah.
oftentimes that'll be enough and you're good for a couple of years. So do it
Really?
every few
Like just
years.
like a few treatments, like
Yeah.
within a.
Yeah. But gallbladders tend to become more problematic in, what did we memorize in school? 40. So none of this describes your wife, by the way.
Is that an age or?
Female, 40,
Well, my wife is
fat,
female,
and
so-
flatulent. All that goes with gallbladder issues. And
Oh,
so,
those are symptoms. Or
right, it's all BFs. All those things, like
40,
if you've got a female that's 40,
female, flatulent,
yeah, a
and
little overweight.
fat.
That's never why.
Well, she's female. She just hit 39.
Okay. Definitely not fat.
She's not like fat, but she's pregnant,
She's pregnant.
so she's like that kind of fat.
But pregnancy can kind of like stir all that up too.
I don't know that she's particularly flatulent. But I probably wouldn't
It's
say
a
that.
clinical
anyway.
thing. If a female that matches all that walks into your office, think gallbladder. It's kind of it's a board question.
That's pretty cool.
So don't repeat that to her.
She'd probably love it. I just want to tell her where I got it, just in case.
But I'd never do a gallbladder cleanse after the pregnancy.
After.
Like even after like she's been nursing for a few months, because it'll probably calm back down after she delivers. But then I'd still have her do a gallbladder flush just to clear it
Okay.
all. And then after that, taking some bile salts and enzymes. You can get that together. It's like a digestive thing, and that.
We found
And she could even do
some
that.
digestive enzymes
Yeah.
that she's been kind of messing with. And then we say we're staying away from like greasy kind of stuff, but I see a lot of that happening. So,
Yeah.
so she's like, oh, it's just so good. I know I'm going to pay for it later. And she does. I do the same thing with lots of stuff.
Most of the studies suggest that females in particular, when they remove their gallbladder, their symptoms don't improve that much.
Really?
And they actually have different digestive issues because your gallbladder
Yeah.
holds onto bile. I always think of bile like Dawn dish soap that emulsifies fats and breaks it down. So if you eat a fatty meal, your gallbladder literally squirts bile into your intestines to help break down all that fat. Well, if the gallbladder's kind of backed up, and it's got gallstones in it that have formed over time, then it really struggles. And so when you eat the fatty food, then you have gallbladder symptoms. It's like, well, if you can get it just to flush all that out, then the gallbladder can start working.
I see. So
It's a bag. That's all it is.
so it's not the digestive issue. It's not the gallbladder. So the gallbladder's not functioning properly. So if you take it out, it's still not going to function properly because
It won't function at all.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense.
And then your cholesterol will slowly go up because the gallbladder kind of helps regulate cholesterol that comes into the body. And so there's just other stuff that comes with it. So it's like, it's not a good trade-off.
Okay.
But it's the #1 adult surgery in North America is cholecystectomy or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Not appendix?
Nope.
Wow.
That's probably a close second. But yeah, and it's based on symptoms. People, I get this whole thing. Oh, let's just take your gallbladder out. It's just such a simple.
I know my mom had hers out before I was even conscious of that. And I never knew to ask her like, oh, what was that about or something. She just had this little like, or cut like right
Yeah.
here.
And
But-
now it's like they'll do like 2 teeny little incisions and go in.
Yeah,
there.
because hers was like in the 80s, so it was
Yeah.
like Frankenstein. or
Frankenstein. Yeah. It's better now, but even then, still, it's like you can avoid it. It'd be nice.
something. Yeah, she's just, because we've had so many pregnancies, I think we like noticed it 3 ago
Yeah.
or 2, 3 ago, and then this last one it was like, oh, it's actually kind of bad, and then this one it's like, we need to do something about this.
Yeah.
So one of those is I think we're probably done, so that's probably one thing to quote unquote do or not do.
Help yourself.
But-
It's full of crap in there.
Riley smoking a pipe?
Well, I kind of want to do a cigar first, but I didn't want to interrupt that conversation. But
Oh, sorry.
no, you're good. I don't know what you got over there.
Whatever it is.
Possibly.
El Cobre.
Cool bread.
So these are very peppery, which is nice, but it's
Kind of like a brick house.
may or may not be. That stuff is
Is
more
that these
mild.
too?
Yeah.
Are you gonna smoke or drink?
I haven't smoked.
Okay.
I was telling him I'm not gonna drink. Well, because I get paranoid driving back across town.
Sure. Where do you live?
Just in the Redlands, so it's not like far,
Like a 15-minute drive.
but it's far enough that you pass every cop on the way back that I didn't notice on the way here, you know.
You know, we went to the Parade of Lights in Fruta, and we were walking by the Methodist church, and I saw one of your
Oh, you saw her stuff, huh?
little heating boxes.
Nice.
Yeah, I pointed that out to Haley.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you able to get by there and was it heating or whatever?
It felt good.
One of the guys was telling me that they kept flipping a breaker on one of those boxes or whatever, but because I was in Denver. Well, that's cool because they told me, they're like, yeah, someone came by and they're like, oh, that's Dom's stuff. I was like, who was it? They're like, I don't know, somebody.
Is that City of Fruta that reached out to you then? Or?
Really, we reached out to them.
Okay.
It was.
So people just like go up and heat up.
Yeah, it was like a guy I work with took his grandkids to the Junction one, and he was like, "Dude, it was so cold." I was like, "I gotta be at the Fruta one next week." He's like, "We have to just have a machine go out there.
Yeah.
Just call them." And I was like, "Okay." So I called the city, and they're like, "Actually, the chamber handles that."
Oh.
So, Caleb, the chamber, was like, "Yeah, come wherever."
Yeah.
And so my guys like set it up because I wasn't there, but if people liked it, it's like it's probably something we should be doing.
Should I listen to this
Every year.
on that playlist?
And we've thought about it before. It's just like we're usually either so busy
Yeah.
I don't really
that
got
it
it.
doesn't make sense, or maybe we've been so like depressed that it's like I don't want to waste time and fuel.
It's a great album.
Be happy. I'm depressed.
I've heard this song.
That's why we
Yeah.
invited everyone so last minute for that party because we're like, we don't want to have a party. We don't deserve a party.
His
Blah, blah,
cover of
blah. And then I was like,
Hallelujah is probably
we're
like the
idiots.
biggest.
We're having a party.
Really?
And then it was a hit. Everyone showed up.
Yeah, it was super fun.
You may have heard it before.
Probably.
Had a blast. I just love the like
I know
random
one
mix of
album.
people that show
Well, I
up.
know you got it.
That's
Like,
kinda
you
one
just
of
need
your-
one.
Yeah, and he
Skills.
One of our
had enough
things.
other stuff that they were able to come out
Well,
with.
it's
like,
nice,
a
too, that you
compilation
guys are-
after the fact of more stuff.
You don't have to wait
but-
till life's
I
perfect.
Yeah, just one album.
You know, you just
Yeah,
because it'll never happen.
because I'll have a celebration of life party when I die. That'd be the only time.
Wish Don would have threw more parties.
He's too busy smoking with those guys.
We actually told our we've committed, so mock me if I don't stick to this, but that the Christmas party makes sense because it's Christmas and it's my wife's birthday, but we want to have like an opposite one of in the summer have like a Surtech, like a company,
Yeah.
but just basically invite the same people though, summer party, and just have it like at our shop.
There you go. It's a good idea.
So we did that when we first bought it. Like as a celebration, it was super fun. But then when stuff got weird, we're like, same thing. We're like, oh, we don't want to do that. We're like, that's stupid. Let's just have a summer party.
Yeah.
Cause why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like that. Some guy came up to, well, some guy. You know, Pastor Mike Whitaker?
Yeah.
The Lutheran
So
church.
his son is dating my daughter.
Dude, I just found that out at the. Well, actually, yesterday, my wife told me.
Yeah. And they're good.
Weird.
Yeah.
No, I really like them.
Yeah,
We
they're-
went there for a little bit while we were looking
Didn't you get a bag of tobacco?
for churches, and I really like their thing.
I have multiple.
I realize
give
I'm
him
not
my
quite
dad, but-
Lutheran,
He doesn't
Yeah.
want one.
but I like their high church thing and all, and I really like him.
That's the only one I have.
So we're friends, but
Actually, pretty good.
Oh no, he came up to me. He's like, "I love it. I I feel safe here.
Yeah.
Like this is like a who's who of conservative
These are my
in
people,
town.
He gave Riley
That's
all of his
awesome.
hype today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
from Ools. Where is that? I think it's Ewell.
I love Pastor Redeker.
Yeah, so he's a tobacco aficionado.
Yeah.
Every time he goes back to Milwaukee, he gets us more. So he asked Riley if he needs to get us more. I'm like, I think we're set up.
I'm working slowly through this. Would he be someone who'd want to come on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
I hadn't even thought of that. He would definitely come on. Cool.
He does. I think he does like the Lutheran hour. Like he does like a radio
He's
show
on
like
the
every
radio.
Sunday.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah. No, we used to spend quite a bit of time together, and then I just think you kind of change circles and you don't for a while. So it's the first time I've seen him in maybe a year.
Yeah, we got acquainted during COVID, all the stop the mandate stuff, and
Yeah, he's
he
big.
definitely got activated, and they came out. He was at every school board meeting for
I want
months
to
and months
get
and months.
guys like him, like your pastor, my current pastor together, because there are certain pastors that you see in the mix with those.
Yeah.
Because a lot just try to stay out of it. I don't want to be political. This is about
Right.
Jesus is in your heart, nowhere else. But some of them, you're like, they want to get involved. So
And they're willing to take a stand. I mean, our church opened up, we finally just were like, hey, we can't wait for the
this
governor
straw's
to
like
do it.
super, like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's like through a cheesecloth. Or just like nothing.
It is an easy draw.
Yeah, I almost didn't. I expected to like struggle. So I'm like,
It is quite peppery though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's spicy. A little cayenne with some white.
I like it.
I like it.
No, but Mike Whitaker, he's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, like what are the odds? He's dating your daughter.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a cool.
Yeah, we'll put him on the list. And he's
Cool, Ruben.
easy to talk to, and
Oh yeah.
he'd be an endless supply of stories and theology and all that. So that would be
Do you think he'd be a DB Cooper?
good. I don't think so. I think he'd be full on.
I bet he'd sit front and center.
He probably would want your seat right there.
Nice.
Probably, yeah. He's not.
Have you met him?
He's not scared.
Okay.
And sorry, I think when I texted our group thing, but I definitely meant that as an invite for you too.
For what? For what?
For our party on Friday. That already happened, so it's like.
I don't know. Did I?
I thought
You
I
may not have seen it.
I
I
may
thought
not
I
have
sent
seen
it
that.
to our group text.
That doesn't sound familiar.
I think he said something like, by the way, Felicia's birthday / Christmas party is Friday.
yeah.
That's it. That's it. I think
Sorry,
there
With,
was.
with no details or context.
I know. Well, I kind of in my head, I'm like, Greg knows what I'm talking
But then
about.
I think you chatted with Andrea, so she had more details. I'm like, is there something?
Well, because I didn't hear anything from you, so I was like, I better text Andrew.
I think I just assumed you were saying that as like I can't smoke that night.
Oh.
I didn't take it as
Total
like.
opposite.
Yeah.
I would have definitely smoked with you last night. Or the other night.
But yeah, I do remember that now. But it's all good.
Next time.
Next time.
You realize as you get to know more people, like you go to a party like that, and you can't even talk to everybody because you know everybody and all the conversations are. So I talked to Lance Rowland for like 30 minutes. I haven't talked
Yeah, I
to him
saw
in years.
that.
I used to work for him way back in the day when they had
Really?
keyless tortillas. I would stock the tortillas at the
Oh my-
chips at the grocery stores.
Oh my goodness.
I got paid $5 a store.
a store.
A store. So I would zip around town on my motorcycle because it was like 5 cents a gallon or whatever. Or
How long would it take you to do a store?
I'd walk in maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, so
It's
not
not
so you could
terrible,
if you
but-
could get your route down.
So I did like 3 city markets, Sam's Club, and a few others. And then I kind of realized like, $5. Yeah.
There is something to like that kind of pay structure though, when it's like if you get your work done, then
Yeah.
I love it. I found so that motivates me like crazy, and I'm just astonished that it doesn't motivate some people.
Yeah.
Because like I've tried it, and they just like I want an hourly wage. And I'm like, really? You could make 5 times the money.
As fast as you want to stock the chips.
And some people it just doesn't compute.
the
Like, no.
quicker I can shoot and edit a house, the better my hourly wages.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some people who will shoot 5 houses a day.
Or if you're having a lazy day and you just want to take forever, that's fine too.
Yeah, if I have one house, it's like I'm gonna make it look real good.
Yeah.
No, it's
Take your
it's,
time, goof around. Yeah.
it's so good, but yeah, it's weird.
Well, I worked at City Market in Clifton at the time when Lance approached me. Actually, I think his brother, Lane. You know Lane?
It's weird. So it's.
So I think I actually worked for
you know,
Lane, but pretty much they
Oh, this
they
is
all
from
own
the same
company.
album as Duvet.
So I was already
Yeah,
working there.
but
He's like, hey,
I
on
really
your
like the intro to the song.
break,
Yeah.
do you
Oh,
want
yeah. Might
to
as
like
well.
face the chips and restock them?
Chorus
I'll give you
is
$5.
like
I'm like, sure. And then he
entirely
added several
different
more stores, and finally I'm like, all right.
Oh, that's
Intro
actually
and verses,
cool
which
though.
really
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've had kind of.
I really
a
like
renaissance
Lance.
because of
Yeah.
Duvet blowing
Yeah,
up.
He's just
because they re-released it.
He's not
Yeah,
political.
and they made like a.
Yeah.
And he's
video for it.
conservative,
Yeah.
but he's just
Yeah.
not
Which is
like
like-
his
That's what I
he's
was
not out
thinking.
there.
Because it was you when we were joking about like
they were pretty popular on
political
TikTok.
spouse.
Song blew up on
Yeah.
TikTok.
It's interesting to get to
So
know.
then they kind of like joined it, and then like.
And you and
yeah,
Andrew, it's
support
not
it.
really political. You just happen to not hold office
They were all
right now.
returned
But it's
each
only a
other.
matter of
And
time.
then they all just got.
But
together,
it's funny to see
you know,
some
make a
of
music video for the song.
for like
There's
Janet
a
is
lot of
like
bands from the 90s.
very,
that, like,
very like prominently well known
did
like
stuff and it
politician
never really
that's her
amounted to
identity
anything.
in
And then
town.
like, because Duvet was a.
And then the spouses are like,
Yeah.
they
That's
want to be
what, like, kinda
ghosts.
got
Leave me
us
alone.
attention.
Yeah.
And,
It's the same with like Ray. I don't know if you talked with him.
Like, do you know Pinch?
That
I haven't
night.
chatted with him in a while. No, I
Because
didn't.
his
talk-
wife
They're
is
another
like
band
not
that like
about.
made like.
I don't think I've ever met her before.
Yeah.
I was so
And, like,
impressed
that
that
was
she
about
came
it, and then they just
because she does not like.
disappeared.
She
And
must
then,
be like
that
Kevin
EP
McCartney's
got, like,
wife.
really
I've-
big on the
I've
internet.
met her
And
once.
now
I've
they
met her once, I
reformed
couldn't
and
even-
they
Like
made
she's an
music.
unaffiliated voter.
Yeah.
Doesn't want any
Yeah.
part of the Republican Party.
I don't know if they.
I guess she
are
used, like,
making-
'cause her
I don't think
husband
they made
was-
any new stuff out of it.
It's been an
I
elected
haven't
official
been
for like
following
ever.
Well, I think they just did
Yeah, Ray.
the music video Duvet. They
10 years
released
or
like.
something, or
Yeah,
5
because he
years?
They
was.
released
I think
the
he
sped up
started
and
out
version of
at
the
a
song, so that
house,
was
and
really
then
popular.
turned out, and then went
So-
to the
Oh,
Senate.
that's driving
Yeah.
me crazy.
So they got into that. They got
8
into
years
that.
plus, 10 years.
Yeah, it's like a decade.
But-
So she was saying like, you know, back in the day, she used to get all into like the parties and stuff, and then now she's just like, I'm
Yeah,
over it.
yeah, she probably hears so much about it. It's even with school board. There's certain times I'm like,
Yeah, they
oh,
just
I'm
released a
kinda-
single, and
done for the
released
week.
that episode number.
I could, well,
It's just a
That was pretty
lot.
much it though.
only so many times someone can come
But
up
yeah,
to
I've
you
just been
and
listening more of that album.
You're
Twilight. I really
passionate
like
about
it.
some-
I really like drinking
thing,
the song.
and they don't care. I mean, not only they don't care about you, but they don't care about you. They
Right.
care about your
Like drinking.
position you
They
have.
have an
the
acoustic
connection
version
you
of
have.
Duvet.
And as soon as you're out there,
That
you know, they
sounds
don't care if
kinda
people
like
are dying. Oh yeah, especially you, like the
Radio.
spouse thing.
The guitar does.
They're only like, oh,
But it's actually
this
really
husband.
good.
I'm like, oh, that's
That one's really good.
That
The one I
feels
just
really
played
And I
was
was
called
concerned
Fort
about that,
Jasmine.
right, for city
I
council.
really
It's
like
like,
the
what if I
intro.
get on city council?
But then the
On my
chorus,
patients?
it's not I don't like
So
it. It just
our
doesn't.
clinic,
I
it's
don't
more
feel
like a
it's supposed to be
barber
that
shop
song,
than
you know?
a
It's like
medical clinic. We've got
it's like
3
really
tables set
hard,
up,
you
all
know, the
open
vocals
space,
just go
families come
crazy,
in,
you know.
chat.
But then like the intro's
It's
like
talking about what's going on in
super
town.
mellow,
We're adjusting
quiet.
people.
You know,
But
which like
even
for some songs
so,
they do that,
with
you know,
Adrian being
like
on
some
school,
artists will do that.
I'll get
like,
people,
oh, that was
okay,
really
so what's going on
well.
with
But this one was just like,
like, I don't know.
I mean, I
It's not
started
really
it yesterday,
why.
so I was just like,
But
this is
if
great.
I was actually elected and I was
Okay.
providing
It's
care
just
and
weird,
talking
like, the
to people,
transition
I was
is
thinking like
really great,
corner
but
me
no,
and
it's
ask
not-
me like,
yeah.
oh
why'd you guys
But,
vote that way? And like, I had
But
some
also
concerns about that.
Twilight, the song
That's
Twilight,
legit.
Twilight is also
Yeah.
really good.
because
but
even on
I haven't
like
listened to
the
too many more
chamber,
of those,
which is
but I
like
wanna
way
listen to the rest
lower
now.
level than that.
Still,
I get like,
yeah.
wow, how come the chamber's
Dive
not
into them
doing
now,
this
yeah.
or that?
Why'd they endorse so and so?
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
what? I
first
don't know.
it's
I'm
not
one of
big,
like 20
I'm
people.
one vote.
Yeah.
After that, you sent it to me, and I probably like.
Yeah, you probably would.
Okay.
Probably
After, like, I
makes
heard
it-
it like a billion
might
times.
even
I was
get
like,
more business.
okay, this is really good. I got really into it, and listened to the rest of the album.
Or
I think I
less.
listened to the rest of the album, most of it. And I was like,
I know we've
I
lost
get into this
some clientele.
headspace of I'm expecting it to
Over
be
the
very
school
close to
stuff
this
or
song,
COVID
and then listen to this
and
album. It's just
stuff.
different.
I'm
You
like,
just
we got some
played
negative
that song,
reviews
and
on
I'm
this,
like,
not like,
nothing
oh,
no, it's not.
I can't go to this
And I was
clinic
like,
anymore. They're way too extreme.
I'm like disappointed, but then I know I'm like, if I come back and listen,
You're like, what are you gonna do?
I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
probably like
your
it.
expectations.
Experimental
Which
drugs
those
on
other
them
songs
because
are
of
like
extreme.
now
Yeah.
I'm liking because you know
Sure,
I don't like
Yeah, I
related
still-
to do that. The only
I don't know if I want.
the only
to
like
ever
exception
be
where that happens is like
involved.
was with like Morning View by
I guess I do.
was
or else I wouldn't flirt with it so
So-
much.
Yeah.
my first song I listened
then,
to that
like,
was
not,
Eagles
like-
Transmission.
Because
They told me.
Is it
I
worth
think
it?
I
I mean,
sent that.
yeah.
Put that in the playlist.
I asked Andrea once, she's
Obviously
like, not
nothing
totally
like
worth
anything anything been done ever.
No,
So.
yeah, because like
I consider what she's doing.
You showed it to me,
for
and I was like,
ministry.
this is weird.
She's on the front lines.
This was like
protecting
I'm
kids.
just getting into them.
Yeah.
You know?
So when you put it like that,
that's a
it's,
call.
it's definitely worth it.
Um,
Like I could
And
see
then
myself
I was
running
like,
for county
expect them to
commissioner
sound like
eventually.
that.
Yeah,
Because I actually
and I was like,
enjoy
and I realized like, okay, this is just a
governance
one-off thing in this
and
album.
working the
you know,
budget
which
and
is
trying
cool,
to figure out
you know,
how
I'll
to
take
do
it.
what you're doing more
And then,
efficiently.
you know,
but yet at the
next
same
thing you know,
time,
wish you were
where's
here,
Mesa
or
County
very-
going
or
in
like
the
the-
future?
other than Drive,
How
are
can
those
we
most
attempt to
popular
work with the city
songs.
grand junction because they don't work well with
other than
others?
Stellar,
Like
off
that's
the same album,
fascinating.
Drive.
to me. Like
But
I really,
I was like, okay, I really
I get
like
it.
this
See that,
album.
yeah.
And I just listened to the entire
but like the politics of it,
the entire album, and
and
I'm like,
people
this
just
is really
rag
good album
on
in
you.
general.
Like Janet
it's really
Lord
good.
has like the
like Aqueous Transmission.
someone created a Facebook page. It's like
you know, I would say
can't remember,
Echo
it's
is
drug
the lead
something,
singer because it's the
page,
song
like
right
one more
before
turn
it
Janet or
transition-
something, you
it
know.
transitions
I don't know who
to
put it
it.
together.
But,
all these people
That's
get
the
on there
last song
ragging
on
on
the
it. It's
album,
like,
right?
Aqueous?
On Morning Dew.
All
So,
right.
Yeah.
so I asked Lance
Which
when I first
Echo
met
is
him,
my
I was like, how
favorite
do
song
you,
ever.
how does one deal
There you
with,
go.
So, you know,
especially like
so
the
you
guy
kinda
thing where
understand
like
the
people like
song.
trashing your wife?
It's kind of funny
I mean,
because
Christy and Travis introduced me to Radiohead, so
Yeah.
which he's not even on
kind of
Facebook.
started me down that path.
I don't
Yeah,
think he reads the
what's
paper.
your favorite?
he was
what's
like,
your
yeah,
favorite songs?
it's kind of a learned skill. Like
Probably
it's,
Reckoner.
But even
Like,
then, he said
like,
people
so
come into the
good.
store and they're like, I know
I
you.
really love Reckoner.
You're
I'm
rolling,
at a
right?
weird,
He's
I
like,
don't know, because
yeah,
it's
he's
hard to
store
like
manager.
a certain.
Your
Well,
wife.
first I'm
and
gonna
just
go back
off on
before I
it.
get to
She's
it,
the
like,
reason.
When I was listening to
Oh, what did he say? She's the.
Morning
Your
Dew.
wife's. She's the reason
I
why.
listened, I
Or no,
listened to the
yeah,
whole
they
thing,
were saying,
and they all
you're
kind
the
of melded
reason
together,
that
and
milk
I started
prices
listening
are
more
so
together.
high.
And I
all
like
these
listened to
things.
like Echo one day,
Yeah,
and I was like,
it's all on
okay,
me.
you know, like
You know,
this is pretty good.
the
you
store
know,
wants
it's
to
not
give
bad.
it away, and
then
I just
I think one day at work, I just
$8,
stuck it in my head, and I was like,
yeah,
wow,
they're good.
that is really good.
It's like,
And I
it's
just like,
insane. I mean, that's how
listening to it
people
over
are.
and over again.
I think that's the thing where
Clicks with your soul.
Yeah,
you know?
because in another like what
I
you're
literally
describing
giddy
is
when I
this
hear
is like
the guitar play.
like it's business.
crazy.
It's the
I don't
business
know
of
why.
the,
It's
of
such
the
a
city.
good song.
That would be really
Yeah, like I
fun.
get so giddy with it,
Except
and I
all
and
the
then I found
losers
songs. I mean, it's the same guitarist. Like,
That- I mean,
the
that
whole-
aspect of it,
it's,
I-
That
so
don't
it's like-
understand the nuance of
It's very similar to
decisions
other
and they
songs.
just want to go.
So
along.
Stellar is
Yeah.
got a very cool guitar part in it. That's
I feel
kinda-
bad. I don't know. I feel bad for Janet. and
But
that
I was
stuff.
like, wow, this is really good.
And I know she
But
took a
it's
lot of
like,
arrows during
So
the.
yeah.
The Dominion.
Dominion,
like,
Sometimes
that
like, when I
was-
think about
yeah.
songs,
I mean, I even went.
like, I actually like don't mind getting songs
test
stuck in my head because it's
you
usually
see my
something
3
like-
minutes. Like, sure,
and I'm
guys, the optics
like,
aren't good.
Often at work, I'll get
If you
stuck
could do
in my
something
head.
other than domain
And then
machines,
I'll
that
be
would be great.
I'll
Decisions
like,
already
like
made.
10 songs
You could tell.
will be in my mind
And,
through at work. And then
and
we'll
I
skip
think
it to
after that, they
and then
realized
after work,
they
I
were
listen to
great
those
on that.
songs to complete
And I
that.
think their hands were tied to a certain extent.
Do you
There's a lot
go
more there, I'm
in-
sure, that we don't even know.
So
but-
Yeah.
people are different about this. I kind of discovered
But I mean,
this
he talked with my. There was a group that's
YouTube
about
channel
ready
and my
to call
Discord
Janet,
that
but
I asked.
And Andrew
I
did
asked
finally, we
people.
told him like, I don't think it's.
So like, what is your
a good
like
idea.
music listening?
You know, you can disagree
habits?
with it,
Like,
but like,
me
let's not just
personally,
go and.
If I find something I really like,
devour
I
our own
will
and-
listen to it.
And
to
what's the
death,
outcome going to be? Okay,
over and
yeah,
over.
Janet,
I'll
and
come
like-
back to it a lot.
and you have some new election where she has to
Until like
run
I'm a
against
little
someone
burnt out
else,
on it, and
what a
or I
giant
move
waste
on to
of
something
time.
else.
You know, I
I do
don't
the
dislike her as a
Other
person. I just
people,
disagree
I've learned,
with
like,
handling
want
certain
to-
situations during a certain period of time.
Like kind of save it
It's a
and
lot
not
to
get burnt out on it, and
My
they'll
wife
want
went
to
through
move
it
on to
and-
something else and
Yeah,
like,
just
come back to it in
giant
moderation.
headache. Waste
Yeah.
of
Like, I'm
resources,
not
and it
gonna
didn't
go.
work anyway.
Now I'm
Like, how often do you recall
I'm like you. I wouldn't.
succeed?
I'm not gonna say like
Pretty rarely,
that lack of
although-
self-control. It's not. It's just.
I think I've mentioned this before. They recalled the entire city council.
I like the song.
They
I'm still listening
expanded
to it
Patterson to
times I want
4
to, but
lanes,
I
and they
like
took a
it.
bunch of
And I
people's
have
property.
like my top 5 or 10 songs.
Yeah, we
that
just moved here.
I
That
could probably listen to
And,
them at any time.
one of our HOA
Yeah, enjoy.
members,
Yeah.
her husband
Like, there
was
are
the
some
president
that,
of
like,
council or mayor
I
at the
really
time.
loved back in the day.
And
Yeah.
got
So
recalled.
much-
So he has a gavel with
so
his
much
name on
Radiohead,
it. He
whatever
got to
it
use
might
it for like
be.
3 months,
And, like,
and then he got recalled.
I never feel like in the mood
That's pretty
all the
The
time. to go back
entire
and listen.
city council
Yeah,
got
it's
recalled.
very
That's kind of cool.
It's very like.
not-
I mean, I don't know if it was
Paranoid Andrew.
worth it
No.
for that issue or not because I
Yeah,
wasn't
actually,
there, but
it's really funny. When was this?
I like the idea that
When I was first listening, I was like, it's not bad.
people
It was
can
good.
do that.
But then, like,
You know?
like last
Because
week, I
they
was
had
listening
to
a little bit more
enact
than usual. I'm like,
eminent
it's pretty good.
domain
I'm like,
at
you
some
know, like,
level
I knew
to
what was
take
good,
people's property
but you
like
get that
that.
If
mood
to set
that-
aside like 6 or 7
Because if you
minutes.
drive
Yes.
down Patterson,
Yeah,
especially down
exactly.
by the
But then you
hospital,
kind of get in the mood
you
of
see all the
listening again, but
concrete, like
I'm like you,
walls
where
and
I'm like,
stuff. That used to be people's
five,
yards.
maybe 5 to 10 songs.
So
maybe 10
the city
too
takes
many,
your
but,
front
And then in
like,
hindsight, like
back
looking
to
at it now,
yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
pretty much like
No matter what the mood.
I'm
like
glad we did that.
like
Like,
Echoes
what else
one,
were they
really,
doing?
really like creeped by Stone Temple Pilots. I
That's
don't know
horrible.
why. I just really like that one.
Oh man.
But that's the process, right? It's, if you
I'm
disagree
blanking
with
on a
your
lot of them. There's probably, like,
elected
several.
officials,
I always go back to that one.
you've got the
That's
right to
really good.
recall them. That's what I did.
Who was Matt was telling me
Oh, like
about
Jigsaw falling into
someplace
places, and also
someplace in the US, like not out of state, Something like that happened. But it was, it was like a dumber
Pretty
decision.
much anything off of In Rainbow,
Yeah.
so I could just
And, like,
go back to it.
pretty much.
They fired like
There's
the
like
whole
with OK Computer, I have to kind of be in a mood
city
for some of
or
the stuff. I
whatever.
didn't have time to go balls.
I shouldn't bring it up if that's all I needed. The details of the story.
But yeah, I do have. I'm very similar to you.
Andrew's
It's like,
telling me about it.
I'll find.
It was really
I'll find a
impressive,
song, I
like,
really
wow,
like it,
that
especially
actually
right now.
happened.
I listen to it a bunch.
Because you always imagine,
And I usually find something new, or
let's
I'll
just
kind of
drag
like,
him out
I'll
of
just
the
kind of
White
like,
House.
I don't get
Throw him
burned
out
out,
on
but
the
I
street.
just kind of stop.
You're like,
Just kind of start
nothing's
listening
gonna
to that
happen.
stuff.
Sometimes it
I'm in the
does.
mood for
And there's a legal process to do it.
Yes,
and I
but then I'll
encourage
always
anyone
come,
to
but I'll
pursue
come
that
back
if
to
they
it.
feel
Like it
passionate
comes
about
on, I'm like, I'm not skipping it because it's like.
Do I agree that it'd be a
Yeah, it's like,
decision or
like
not?
this is like one of my favorite
That's another
songs.
thing.
Like, I'm
It's
not gonna
your
skip it, you know. So there's
constitutional
always
right
those
to
songs
recall
that I
your
have.
electeds.
But yeah, so I'm like
If they're not
basically
doing
the
what you
exact same
elected
thing.
them to do.
I can see the argument of
Wanting to save it.
wanting to save it, which I think I've done with like a
She was
couple
uncomfortable
songs,
with thinking
and it's worked out. I think like there's been a couple songs I want to be
Yes,
She probably was not the only
If
one.
I
And
listened
I've
to
talked
it
to Andrea about
way too
that.
much in that
It sounds
moment, I
like
probably
that's
would have
kind
ruined
of-
it for myself.
That's how Janet
Probably
is with
would-
crowd. She's
I
actually
would
loved
listen
it
to
one on
during
one.
the future.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did that.
She's just like,
Yeah, no.
And I don't really
understand
do that. Though.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
Some
like
people
listen to a
just
song,
personalities
and
not
how I
their
find
thing.
something new.
Likewise, yeah.
and Zan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Duvet, I really
Yeah.
like that song.
But I was super glad they came.
I still like
Yeah,
it.
agreed.
I'm so glad I can listen to
It was
it.
a good group
so,
of people.
I should make a list actually. I should make a list of like my top like 10 songs. You know, I can
Yeah.
go back to.
I did that at one point. I don't think I finished it.
So we had some
Yeah, I'll have to go back to it.
topics
But I'm still, like,
in our
really looking
shared
at
I
group.
have
about-
Oh, yeah, I
I
haven't
need
looked at
to
it
see
in a
it.
while.
Well, like sitting
Anything
should I
on
don't
it.
know since we put it together, so I don't know if there's something on
All
there.
right, Alex. What are we supposed to be talking about?
I don't know.
We're talking about
Hold on.
kind of songs.
Okay, I have one that's
Grunge music.
something to be requested by my wife. I wrote it down as 3 a.m. being a spooky time.
Interesting.
That is
I
interesting.
was just talking about that with my wife a month ago.
No kidding. Yeah, she's kind of, I mean, that's like a thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like 3 a.m.
It's the witching hour.
Yeah, she had a moment within this last week or so of like waking up from some like dream or like being startled by like a sound or just like some kind of weird thing. Looked at the clock and it was like 3:33, and she was like, "You guys,
3:33.
like you guys need to talk about that on the podcast." So I don't know if you guys have much experience with that, but 3 a.m. being a
Well,
spooky time.
It came up for me, like I said, like a month ago. Was that when I was sick? Like about a month ago or so. I was sick for a while, but I was just having trouble. I'm sleeping really good right now, but I was having trouble sleeping for probably a good month. And I was always waking up. And it was always at 3 in the morning, and I just couldn't. And at first I was like, "Oh, it's just coincidence," but it started. The only reason it freaked me out is only because I watched a movie once. And it was like one of those like the Exorcism of Emily Rose or something.
Oh,
Is it that one?
Yeah.
It was like at a friend's house, and they had just mentioned, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning because it's reverse Trinity. It's like it's the middle of the night, so it's 3, it's reverse Trinity, and that's why it's bad. And I just thought they made that up for the movie.
Yeah.
But I can't get that stupid little fact out of my head.
Sure.
So whenever I wake up at 3, I'm like, oh no, this is terrible.
You have the jerky over there somewhere?
It's somewhere.
Was it this?
The jerky?
But so I told my wife that, and she's like, oh, I never heard about that. And that's kind of all it. I've never talked about it, so you just brought it up right now.
I've heard
So that's a thing then.
The witching hour.
Yeah.
Tim Almarino's talked about it, and I think even Michael Heiser briefly.
Cold.
Really?
I came from the fridge.
I think it was one of his Naked Church podcasts.
Oh.
But supposedly, like, so at Halloween, as far as the seasons of the year, that's when the veil between our world and the other world is like the thinnest, supposedly. Mm-hmm. But then also at 3 a.m., between like 2 and 3 a.m., like supposedly the veil, for whatever reason, gets really thin.
Where does he get this? Or like I guess where does he get this like thought
Good
from?
idea, yeah.
I don't know. I think it's been talked about and somewhat understood in certain circles for
Millennium.
millennia.
I think it might just be like
But I do wonder where that
people
comes from, like-
people noticing the pattern.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, this time in particular seems to be.
Probably.
And if you're into like witchcraft and all of that, they're very much aware of it. So oftentimes they'll
Haley mentioned it. Yeah.
yeah, they'll have their ceremonies and seances at that time because they're trying to like, well, and then you go all the way back to who's the father of Satanism? Aleister Crowley. Even before him was
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey. And so they did all their stuff around that time. And supposedly, if you talk to some people, they said Anton opened up a portal. And then later regretted it. Because
I listened to
Realized what he was
that
doing.
episode of Blurred Creatures with that pastor or whatever. I listened to it while sitting in discount tires waiting for my tires to change.
better that than in your living room in the dark when the kids are
Sure.
in bed and you're like,
Yeah,
what am
no,
I doing?
That's not the time to do it.
But man, that was
My friend.
Or like your
absolutely
pastor up
insane.
on the mesa at his cabin. He's like, what am I doing?
I'm looking at the Wikipedia while listening to this for Anton LaVey and looking at his death. And it's like those details, they're not like contradictory, but they're just not in there. And I'm like, but I can see this like being what happened.
That's probably one of the wildest episodes, but also it's like, that's his experience. Like, I can't speak against it, but
Wow.
that's
I don't have any reason to doubt him. Is the thing, but it was wild. And Haley's been listening to listens to a podcast called Bright Hearth, which is something her friend put her onto. And it's I think a pastor and his wife, like kind of younger, 30s, and just kind of things about like family and stuff like that. But they've done they're starting a side podcast now.
Where are you drinking ginger ale?
Zevia, a sugar-free.
No. I should have thought of that. I'll bring soda next time.
Sometimes it just tastes good. I've got more if you want.
I would take one.
Would you?
Yeah.
Riley,
You want ginger ale, or do we have also the cola as well?
I've got root beer and I've got cola.
Ginger ale would be great.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I wish I'd drink it. I just don't want to drink alcohol.
Riley, no, you.
Thanks, Riley.
Oh no, we're listening to the Aston Martin.
No, you just hit the, with the microphone.
And then preparing for my brother to come, because he doesn't drink either now, I've got some, Andrew's been buying them, I can't remember what they're called, but it's in a frosted glass bottle, like a wine bottle. But it's like got adaptogens in it, but it's carbonated, and it's got a nice little bite to it. But it's
Thank you very
non-alcoholic.
much.
Cool.
Put a few ice cubes in there, it's a great little drink.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Zevia sodas are pretty good.
I'd
Like,
say DeSoy, but it's not DeSoy. It's like,
They're really
like,
good.
It comes in the mail in this big
Like,
box, and it's like all
I don't know,
carbonated.
a regular soda, but not with like all the
legit.
sugar.
But anyway, they started a side podcast
Ginger ale
dedicated to
feels
very
good for you.
similar
Feels like-
stuff
yeah.
that the Blurred Creatures talk about. So she's been, when she can, she listens to that a little bit too. So she's been enjoying that.
I think I like the episodes the most where they interview someone that's had a personal experience.
Yeah.
But they take a lot of time to
Open up.
to not validate, but they basically try to make sure that the
Or like
person's
verify that it's not.
it's legit, they're not some wackadoo. And so it'll take them, I think, a couple of months of back and forth emails and phone calls to then decide if they're going to let them on the podcast.
Well, that's nice.
Because there's probably an
Audience.
endless amount of just like
Oh.
crazies.
Because they've got so many listeners now, and some of the stuff that
I still haven't listened to Blurry Creatures. I got it.
I highly recommend that Antoine LaVey episode. Is super compelling. And it's just this squirrely sounding little
Yep.
pastor. You're like, yeah, and we asked, we prayed to God to sever Anton's
Silver string or
cord,
whatever.
And I'm like, this like tiny sounding little man, like doing the most insane things you could possibly
and
imagine.
Anton's daughter, I can't remember all the details of the
Yeah.
episode now, but
Dude, this holds it pretty good.
Holy.
I don't want to drop it
What's
on
the
your
church
heart though.
it's totally fine.
I think that's a record for you, dude.
It's a patient of mine. He sells these here in town. He's got a huge warehouse, and these are a gift.
Okay. I don't
If you
feel
want
so
them for your
bad.
garage, I can
Yeah,
They're
that's
designed to hold, like, if you got, like, the ice and snow up in your wheel wells and it all melts. So it's a flood. We've literally had it flood our
gosh.
garage.
that makes sense.
So the little lip will hold it all in.
That's amazing.
That's a little spill containment.
Yeah. Which is a rarity that we have that much here in Grand Junction, but every once in a while.
I should bug you because I could even use these for work.
They're great. He buys shipping containers of these.
Oh yeah.
They'll end up in San Diego and then they'll
Is it just one size, like a?
No, you
He'll
tell
customize
him.
it?
Well, part of it you tell him your vehicle size, and then kind of part of it's your garage stall too, because this is obviously you can see where they poured an extra slab there, so that should actually go another. But we just folded it over.
Yeah.
It's fine.
This is cool.
But they're great. And then it just keeps your garage floor from getting all the tire tracks, but it's super durable.
I'll probably drop. Well,
It's
it doesn't want to.
It's a sturdy cigar, man.
Nice.
I guess still on the 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
Oh yeah, we haven't
You
really.
have something to say?
The band.
Please.
Not really. I just thought it was kind of. I just thought it was kind of interesting. Because like as kids,
Like
it's
a
kind of a
ska
scary
band
time,
or
but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people my age, like think it's a very depressing time if you're up that late, you know. But it's like if you're up that late in general, like
If you're up that late, you're by yourself.
yeah, it's a
Oh,
very,
yeah.
it's a very alone time. It's like where like this world is asleep, you know, and you're alone.
And it's a weird like decision time for you. 'Cause you're like, the next day is like right there. Like, am I really gonna go to sleep now? But I should, because if I push through, I'm gonna hate lights by noon.
Right between late night and early morning.
Exactly. Because then like 4 a.m. is early in the morning, like really, it's really
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's also like and then but 2 a.m. is still pretty late night, so it's like
Very rarely is good stuff happening at 3 a.m.
really, you know,
Yeah.
hey, you might just be in the creative process and just really be cooking, you know, something, yeah.
I do have one from my friend Steven from Canada, who
Yeah.
watches all our episodes.
Hi, Steven.
Nice, Steven.
He's a hardcore Jeff Buckley fan, actually.
Oh, okay.
But he had something he wanted us to muse on, and I'm very ignorant on this topic. I don't know if you guys have more to say, but just to chat about what you guys think about new heavens and new earth, and what that's going to look like.
Would there be technically a new heaven if there was a new earth? Or like, what is that? I guess
Bible
what
says so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
new heavens. And
Which
new
is
earth.
always a weird, because we don't think about it, but
Does that mean
So-
new space or like?
would that be just where, I guess, the, what's it called? Like where they call the divine creatures preside? Or would there
I don't know.
be a need of divine creatures?
It also says that this earth will be purged with fire, right?
Yeah, instead of
heaven and earth will pass
instead
away.
of water, it's fire.
Yeah.
Do you think the sun's going to implode sooner than we think?
Get a big solar
Do
flare.
we have the supernova on the horizon?
Like Obama's new movie. Have you watched it yet on Netflix? The Obamas, I guess, produced it or something.
I'm sure they did.
I can't remember. It's the end of the world, but there's like a big EMP, and then all the Tesla cars are like.
Oh, I've heard about that
straight
show.
over
I
the
didn't know it was an
road.
Obama.
I saw
one.
the trailer a while back, and yeah, someone
I just
said
read an article about like Elon being pissed about it.
he was pissed.
Because all the cars. Because the self-driving cars were going nuts.
But even like a regular car with any computer in it, if there's an EMP, it's not gonna run.
What's
Unless you've
it
got like an
done?
old Camaro or
Yeah.
something with no chips or anything.
I was just reading I didn't know it was an EMP thing, but there was something about just the self-driving cars were like, they were still functioning, but they were malfunctioning. They were just going all over. Is Julia Roberts in it?
Yeah.
Oh, you talk.
It's
I know what you're talking about. That's
what's the name? It's got that black guy in it he's in a few sci-fi type things too.
Yeah.
that is the guy who made it's the same guy who made Mr. Robot.
He's also in House of Cards, I think.
You know Mr. Robot?
I know Miss Robot, I don't know who made it though.
Yeah, Sam Esmail. Yeah, I know about this. I didn't realize that was what you're talking about. It's just some like Netflix apocalyptic movie.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And it's a lot of people are watching it, kind of mixed reviews. A couple of people that I know that I trust are like, don't bother. But
It's not like it's out there, or it's just not good. Like it's not a good story.
that's what I heard is like not as good a story as they're expecting. But I want to watch it just to see what's going on in the mind of. And it's not like Barack sat down and wrote the script,
So yeah,
but they got behind it and produced
yeah. I
it.
mean,
So it's like, all right, what are they thinking? It kind of feels like it's up there with like World Economic Forum type stuff, like because he's
Sympathetic
Klaus
to
Schwab.
sympathetic to it, or like
well, Klaus Schwab
Sure,
has already
yeah.
talked about like, oh, there's going to be either a solar flare or some EMP that's going to take everything out. Like he's like predicting all this stuff, and then the Obamas come out with something. It's like, all right, well, I know they're pretty chummy too, so it's like I kind of want to see what their playbook is.
well, and they just had the annual like climate summit this year in
More of that jerky.
the United Arab Emirates. deciding how that we're gonna be net zero by 2050 or something.
2050.
But what I was reading about is that like basically all the Western countries are like, yeah, let's just shut oil and gas down like tomorrow. Like let's just do it. But that the Saudis and some of Brazil, like some of those other countries are like, yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
What was the year that Gavin Newsom gave for his electric car thing?
It's like 2030.
30 or 35.
It's like right around the
There's
corner.
no way.
That's why this car is parked in a garage. Because the guy that owned it in California, he's a firefighter. He's like, I can't convert this to an electric car. Nor should you. That's like an abomination.
Yeah.
So they're selling off all their combustion vehicles.
Oh, that's a nice car. Well, there was something. The last year or 2 years ago, they changed some of the laws for like the trucking, and that was part of why like they couldn't get stuff off the. Remember, they couldn't get like stuff off the boats and stuff in the ports in California. Yeah. One of the reasons was they changed some of the laws for like some of these commercial trucking things where certain types of combustion like weren't allowed or weren't gonna be allowed. And so it's like, you won't be able to register them, and it was something quick, like 5 years or something. So
And even drivers, a lot of the truck drivers were getting gobbled up during COVID and weren't allowed.
Following him.
It's actually the guy, I'll give Justin a shout out, that gave me these floor mats. He said during
Probably just wipe it off onto
the 2 or 3 years of COVID, he said that drivers were charging him, it's like 60 grand to drive his container from San Diego to Grand Junction. He's like, I'm about to go out and get my CDL. He's like, this is ridiculous, 60 grand.
Well, yeah, you could do it like 12 times for that price. And
Fly
the price of
out,
container.
you know, get in the truck, drive it back here. I mean, shoot,
Well, we were
buy
getting
a semi for that.
called. We never ended up doing anything, but we were getting called to like potentially like pick up stuff or deliver stuff.
Really?
Because we don't have like big semis. We have like F-350s, which
Yes.
are under that radar.
Right.
But yeah, it's just all this unreal. It's hard. It's hard to decide. Like, are they just stupid? Because there are people that are just like, they just don't know how stuff works.
Right.
And they've been propagandized into like, well, that's bad. So
They're in
we
a
should-
book club somewhere and they've read about it.
Yeah, we should just not do it. And they have no idea that like you literally couldn't get some things done without the type of energy that we've figured out in the last 150 years. And then there's other people who are like, you know how it works and you just hate people.
Yeah.
And like the Schwabs and stuff, I kind of buy that with them where they like, I always buy into the demonic influence behind a lot of it. And I've said that like before.
Yeah,
talk about that,
just
yeah.
like, you know, if you're a demon who used to get worshipped all the time by like just little tribal people just like barely making it, dying of disease all the time, and just loving that.
Now you're not,
and then now we've
you're
got
not
like
needed anymore.
not needed anymore. We got like 8 billion and counting. You're just like, we're getting overrun with this human scum. Like we gotta figure this out.
They shouldn't drive anymore.
Well, the thing is like, you know, our mobility, you know, all this food, we gotta figure out, like, because before, like, you couldn't do it just because you couldn't produce this much food.
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone.
There were
Let alone transport it around.
influential individuals in the 70s that are like, oh, we're going to have bread lines like by the end of the 80s. It's going to be mass starvation. It's going to be horrible.
Oh, no! Sorry.
That was more than halfway though. That's pretty good.
That was that was really good.
Yeah. Just trying to impress you guys and I wrecked your thing.
Mr. Churchill himself would tell us.
But, oh, seriously, don't worry about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrea comes out and she'll vacuum it periodically. And we got a leaf blower, like, because it'll just driving in here, it'll bring all the little leaves and everything. She'll just blow it all out.
Okay.
But back to the new heaven and new earth.
Yeah. Sorry, we got a little
Oh, sorry.
That's
Yeah.
right. We got apocalyptic real quick.
It's a good topic of conversation, though. But anyway.
And you have to figure out, like, so that's where words matter too. It's like, what is a new heaven? because it says
Because
Jerusalem.
like, what is heaven in the first place?
Right,
Yeah.
Christ will return and bring Jerusalem down to earth, right? Like heavenly Jerusalem, if you will, and reestablish his kingdom for 1,000 years. And there's debate on, is it actually 1,000 years, or has that already happened? Like you can get into
Yeah.
all that, which it's all interesting, and I don't have a dog in that fight, but I think when the scripture says that, there's something to that. It means something, and that the earth will be, cleansed and purged with fire. It's like, how is that real? Like, is the earth actually going to burn up, and then Christ is going to create a new earth? It's like, what do you need a new earth for? Because a lot of people think, oh, we just died and we go to heaven and we're playing harps on a cloud somewhere.
Yeah.
And we all know that that's not the case. And we know that, we'll be able to rule to a certain extent based on what we've, like the parables, if you've done good with a little, he'll give you more. So I think we'll actually be able to rule over areas and territories, and there's no marriage in heaven, but I think we'll know our spouses.
The absence of like sin, like I
It's
cannot.
unimaginable. Yeah.
Yeah, like so I see why people would think like, oh, we're just in this neutral state of constant worship in the clouds, because they can't fathom anything else. But I don't know, the idea of entertaining, like these, to Jordan Peterson, these hierarchies
Yes.
of like power and control, like without sin. You did it again.
What happened?
You keep wanting the Aston
so
Martin to
funny.
speak, and it's not going to.
I don't even feel it.
It doesn't want to become an electric car.
But
I
if it
promise.
would, it would be with a British accent with some tea.
I was wondering, did I knock something over or something?
That's
Was
just
the
like
first time? I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
But like, how is that power structure gonna work
Right.
with no sin?
Without people that are hungry for power and
Right,
control. And,
right.
Well, because you think like, well, why would we even need any type of power structure?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
Angels exist.
if we're truly the good communists and everyone's what's the everyone to his ability and everyone to his need or whatever,
Right.
which maybe don't mix that in, but without any type of sin, if you ever had any need of anything, I would gladly be compelled to just allow you to have out of my excess or whatever or something.
Yeah.
Not that self-interest is sin, but like self-interest somehow blurs into sin somewhere, and wherever that appropriate line is, I'm always going to be you. It's really like you can't even imagine a world without sin.
Positions of power on Earth are almost like meant to like rein things in, right? They're meant to keep things under control, keep order. And so like all of the things that I think of when I think of like earthly positions of power, it's kind of in their right order are kind of meant to mitigate the sin nature, right?
Yeah, because the assumption is that things are going to tend towards going off the
Chaos, yeah. So like, well, if we don't have chaos, then why will those be a thing? I mean, that's just
And you assume if the
finite
curse
thinking.
is gone,
Right.
it's not even like we'll have concern for resources. And again, a lot of it you're kind of presuming a lot, but like you kind of assume like, okay, there's like this Eden type thing will spread the entire world or the entire realm that we're on. And so it's not even like you'd have to govern to be like, well, you got 5 oranges today, he only has 3. It's like, we'll probably all have the oranges we want or need.
Right. And there is like, whenever I think about the structure of the new Earth, I think like, okay, my mind goes to Eden. Like, was Eden perfect? Like, well, we had like free will, whatever, but like we failed.
Right.
But like this one will not fail. Right? So like, I the mental gymnastics are like
That one's interesting too.
Way
'Cause it's
beyond
like,
me.
how did we fall if we didn't have a sin nature at that point?
and like how close were we to God at that point? And will we be closer than Adam and Eve were?
And there was even a pre-Edenic incursion, right?
Yeah.
When the dragon himself wanted to be like God.
Yeah.
He wasn't a human.
Right.
You know, how much free will did he have? I mean, enough to rebel.
It's like, was being in the presence of God enough? You know, I mean, that sounds terrible to say, but like, I don't know how.
That one's always interesting to me, where like ideas of like Satan and these fallen angels and stuff, because you know we've had the gospel in so many different forms, some appropriate and not, but like in our head, where some people get this attitude of like, well, God has to save us, or God wants to save us, or God all this stuff. But there's never any thought that they're like, screw Satan. It's like, why wouldn't he? Why did he not want to save that class of beings? Why are they not redeemable or not worth being redeemed? Or they're higher than we are.
But we'll judge them.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Thanks that about.
It's a really hard one to wrap my mind around.
And it's just one phrase in scripture in Paul.
Yeah.
Something.
It's like, why would,
And we'll judge
why
angels.
would you even mention
Good
it?
job, right?
Just let us find out later, because now it's just going to mess with it.
Yeah. And I don't think Paul or any other even New Testament apostle that wrote anything, they always wrote it from the perspective of, you know, like a second temple Jew.
Yeah.
And so they always referenced back to what they understood at the time. I think second temple Jews, they knew a lot more about the unseen realm than we really
And we do.
choose to understand. And so for them, none of that was strange or unusual, but that was the context in which they spoke. So it's not like Paul said something new. He was just saying what all the Jews knew at the time, but that's been lost over time. It's almost like in J.R.R. Tolkien, it's like there's things that have been lost over time, some of that old knowledge.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the ring comes and all of a sudden you start reading some of these old documents and like, wow, what was happening millennia ago? It's like, oh, this has happened before.
Yeah, like Gandalf has to ride on horseback to Minas Tirith to go look in the archives to be like, what does this all mean?
It's one of my favorite parts of that movie where he's looking through the old scrolls and he's like smoking his pipe and he's like, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
there's old magic here. There's this old stuff. It's like, yes, there is old stuff.
How do we visit
Realize like
this?
Bilbo has
so
this
good.
thing that we need to deal with. Yeah.
Hey, just watch the first one. You don't need to watch the rest. I mean, the rest of them are fine.
Yeah.
The first one where it's like,
It's such.
there's something
such
weird in
good
the air,
books.
there's something
Such
weird in the
good
water,
movies.
like something's changed. I even posted it to Facebook the other day. It's like, do you guys feel like something's changed? It's like, yeah, you can smell it, you can taste it. Like food doesn't taste the same now. Something's changed.
I've never read the books, but I do. I plan to. I'm at this like crossroads of like things to read, of like these, like Moby Dick, Crime and Punishment,
Les Mis.
or like Lord of the Rings. I'm like, they're all huge. Which one do I do? But I do know in Lord of the books, they obviously with the movie you want to truncate it, but like in the books,
Goes back to like similarly.
that time span in the beginning of Fellowship where like Bilbo has the ring, he has his birthday party, Frodo, etc. Like there's actually like multiple years that go on in that time span.
Yep.
Of like between these two events, there's like 30 years.
Yep.
But in the movie, it feels like everything happens
It all happens
within
at
like
once,
a month, and then they're off on the road to Mordor. But in the books, it's like everything's extrapolated out way more, and there's way more build up to like Gandalf has to go do this and then come back and then like all that stuff. But yeah, that's
That idea harkens back to the New Earth. So, right, because I'm doing this adventures in semi-preterism, right? Trying to figure that out, and it plays into like I always just thought the 1,000 years thing was 1,000 years. It says 1,000 years, 1,000 years.
What is semi-preterism?
Well, I say preterism. The idea, right? A lot of these things that we're looking forward to happened in 70, 80, I think.
yeah.
But I've learned that I need to. There's like nuance in it because what people would call hyper-preterism. So if you just say preterism, sometimes people think you mean hyper. And all that means is just like, there's literally no more prophecy left. Like literally everything has happened.
Oh.
I was reading about this recently, like the second coming of Jesus is the like normal Jesus we think of. Like that's when he came to earth, but that's like it. And then
It's a bit extreme.
But they don't have a clear conclusion for anything. It just goes on.
Yeah.
So I say like semi-preterism, where it's like I really am starting to buy that a lot of these things that we're looking for did happen at the end of Israel as a state, but like not all of it.
Yeah.
How am I getting it? Oh, so but the 1,000 years thing is, I've read people that think like, okay, we're in that now, and when they say 1,000 years, it's just kind of this euphemism for like a very long time.
Yeah.
But that's hard because it's like, well, the end of the Gentiles age and all this stuff, and that's supposed to be after the Gentile age, and it would make sense that we're in some sort of a Gentile age right now.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that 1,000 years could be just a euphemism for like an extremely long time that.
Because some think
Christians
we're
are
in the millennial reign right now.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of could entertain that, although I'm not ready to be like, yeah, I think that's it.
We talked a bit about that. Like, is Satan or Christ reigning right now?
Right. I mean, I don't think there's any evidence that Christ or that Satan's in a pit somewhere, and Christ has come down, seated in Jerusalem, curses taken off the ground, and now he's reigning and in control.
Yeah.
And we're the millennial reign, and I just don't see that as. I just don't see that. But
So in my attempt to entertain all this, I would somewhat disagree in that there's no evidence for it. It just may be like, what kind of evidence are we looking for? Because we want like concrete, magic, abracadabra, everything's good.
yeah.
Right.
And as I've been looking at this, and then thinking about the world and almost like God's style, God's style isn't, and this is, scripture doesn't spell this out, but like scripture and the world kind of infers this, like God's style isn't abracadabra. He only ever does that when he feels to condescend and humor us to impress us, so to speak. Sometimes he splits the sea, but God created stuff the way he felt like creating it. And he built in this slow, you're conceived, and then you grow for 9 months, and then you're born, and then you grow into a man over like 20 years.
He created what we call natural laws, right?
Yeah, he created all these natural laws, and so we think, well, he's God, he can do anything, he can think stuff into existence, and he can, and sometimes he does, but like plainly his preference is he likes this slow, methodical process that we see over like little lifetimes, but then we have the advantage of looking at history, and you can see like nations grow, and they take hundreds and thousands of years for these little things to happen. And so, where am I getting? Oh, that when you say, Satan's not in a pit. And you're right, because you're like, well, bad stuff happens. We think like if Satan's really chained up, then nothing bad could happen. Like everything would be perfect. But it's like maybe, right? Because the idea that when we look at the old pagan world and just how like absolutely nuts and bloodthirsty and brutal it was, and that kind of mixes into like, especially our conservatism, we can see that like we're always on like the edge of that coming back. But in another sense, it's like since Christ, that life has been pushed like ever so slowly back into the distance of humanity.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are living that still, like, today. But the idea that, like, just everyone was, and that was just completely normal. And in some ways, at any moment, someone can show up and say, well, your daughter is the next one going on the mountain, and we're going to sacrifice her. And the fact that that has been, Christ's influence has pushed that to, like, the fringes of humanity.
Yep.
And you could see, you know, Klaus Schwab and everything aside, that given another 2,000 years, it might be something that is so unheard of, people might argue that probably never even happened.
Sure.
And in that context, I'm like, is that how, like, God's doing it? Like, again, where it's not a abracadabra all at the same time, but it's like Satan's restrained in a sense, right? Even in the language, it's like he's chained, and chain kind of implies like some type of movement.
Right.
I'm really making a lot of like leaps and jumps and stuff, but
Well, that's all fair. It's very vague language.
It's restrained,
Right.
so that there is sin. There's all these things. Because even in the little rain, there's sin, and like,
There's
it's
still
not
sin.
gone.
And supposedly it'll be dealt with righteously and swiftly. What is that? I don't know.
But this civilization that's grown now, and there will be probably several others or something, but through Christ we've pushed so much of that back.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it's happening. And so Christ is reigning, but in a slow, mustard seedy sort of way. And there's a lot of that language too. It's like, well, what is the kingdom of God like?
Right.
And it's never like it's a big flash in the pan. It's like, well, it's like bread that's like slowly rises, or it's like a seed that starts super small and then it grows into the largest tree. And mixing all of that in my head, I'm like, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Like,
The Bible Project guys talk about that a little bit in some of their videos. They talk about, you know, we're in this fallen world, but then there's like God's world, you know, the unseen realm, and how we're slowly starting to merge the two. And every once in a while, you get a glimpse into like, oh, that's the heavenly kingdom here on earth. But it's not here yet. But it's like it's
yeah, the
merging
here and
slowly.
not yet concept.
Pastor Tim talks about that.
So
all
that
the
makes a
time.
lot.
Yeah.
It's just making more and more sense to me that like we're getting there. We're just somewhere in the middle
Yeah.
of history. We're not near the end. We're not at the beginning either.
So I grew up with a lot of teaching around dispensationalism. You know, where I mean, you go all the way
Like
back.
the age of innocence and the
Yeah.
age of this and we're in the church age. or
God
something.
basically dispensed these different situations for mankind to experience.
Very binary.
So yeah, so man in the garden with free will. All right, that didn't work out. All right, man with the law. All right, that didn't work out. Now man with Christ. Now we're in the age of grace. Then there's going to be so you have all these different dispensations, but it's very binary. And I can definitely like my mind works fairly well
Like
with that.
quantitism.
You know, if you're looking at the Bible, like you said, you're just putting it on like this line.
Oh,
But at the same time, we kind of
Ash
know
got me.
that that's probably not necessarily how it all works.
I mean, it could be, but
Could be.
I'm drifting away from that or something.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I'm very sympathetic to your view. I haven't thought enough about it to like come to a conclusion, but I've heard people sympathetic to preterism and whatnot that are well spoken and well educated and well thought out. You being one of them.
I was like, not like you, but like these other guys I've heard.
And it's really compelling to me, and
Yeah, me
I
too.
kind of hope that it's the case.
It's a pretty optimistic idea.
I'm impressed with people that admit they don't know. And that there's people that came before us that were a lot smarter than us that argued and disagreed on this stuff too. And so if anyone thinks that they've arrived and got it figured out, I'm probably not very interested, right? So I appreciate you guys and like just talk about all the stuff. I don't know, there's something interesting here, but then this is kind of interesting here.
Yeah, because there are people who like fight you on it. Like, you're an idiot if you think, you know.
I have no interest in it.
It also like I understand that that thought process of smarter people than us have argued about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with, things that are like very scriptural, Calvinism,
Arminianism.
age of the earth, whatever. But like when it comes to stuff like this that's set in the future, I feel like whoever is contemporary, which is us right now in the modern era, we get to look back at what everyone else has said about this stuff, and they were not alive during the Industrial Revolution, the Internet age.
During Hitler.
Exactly. So we have all of them to look back on, but also our modern context to be like, I'm gonna, evaluate what I have based on modern stuff, which all of the future aspect of Christianity.
Well, even like you mentioned, the Industrial Revolution and like, scientific revolution, that's really only still like a couple 100 years old.
So new and brief,
It's changed so much, but you've probably read a lot about, I can't even think about it now, stuff like the anthropic principles and, that's not what I mean, but basically just like the foundation of Christianity, people argue, and I buy kind of wholeheartedly, is the only reason we have science at all.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things where I'd say like is an evidence of like Christianity has helped unlock so much about how this world works that we just couldn't figure out before.
Yeah.
We thought it was like magic and spells, and there's still something to all that, but that we can do all this stuff, it was always there, but we weren't looking for it. And the idea that one God, like that we worship one God that created everything, instead of like many gods that govern all kinds of different things, and that they're like at odds and stuff all the time, developed a mindset of like there's a certain like uniformity to the rules of this world because they're developed by one God. And it helped us have the mindset that we could go out and discover those. Where before, so much of our pagan ancestors just assumed stuff was so arbitrary, like why bother even looking for natural laws, because there aren't any.
Right.
And I just think like, as we mature as a species in Christ, how many other disciplines akin to science that we can't even imagine right now will we develop specifically because we've learned to worship and understand God better?
Yeah.
There's like dark matter, quantum stuff that's like
And I think
incomprehensible to me.
And I think unfortunately a lot of Christians shy away from that. They just put it under the umbrella of New Age, which I think, fortunately or unfortunately, the New Age movement has grasped the hold of, like, and you talked about Anton LaVey and some of those, like, I think they actually figured out how to like disembody and travel and do some crazy.
Because there's a lot of mystical stuff that I think is probably going to have nothing to do with science, but that we're going to be able to dial in the way we've dialed in science. Right now, just science is God, but other disciplines like that, that right now, because science is so dominant and science can't figure that out, we just say, well, it doesn't exist.
Right, it's all metaphysical. Like even the idea of astral projection. I mean, there's people you talk to that are now Christians that are like, oh yeah, I was able to leave and I went.
It's gotta be real.
Place and did these things. It's like, whoa.
Do you have the Cobra cigars or whatever?
Shake hands with the Cobra.
Shake hands with that Cobra?
Those are the same ones, or?
That is the one you're currently smoking.
Those are really good.
Oh, this is the Grand Exhibition.
These ones?
Yeah, those are really good. I'm not a fan of the darker ones, but that was really good.
First smoke of a Monte Cristo when I was in Florida. Went to a little tobacco shop in Clearwater, and I'm on my phone like trying to look at like ratings on cigars. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy a $20 cigar if it's crap. It's like, all the Monte Cristos are like 92 out of 100. I'm like, all right, I'll try one. Pretty good cigar. These are like on sale, pretty good deal. I'm like, I'll try them. Definitely spicy. I like it.
That's very good.
These are great.
Yeah.
And they draw just like a dream.
It's like the worst when you get a cigar and you're just sucking so hard on it. And you're almost like inhaling it because you're trying to get this.
It's a milkshake. Like a milkshake,
So Oliva at the bottom.
It does?
It does.
These are Olivas?
These are Olivas. says oliva at the
That's
bottom.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The more you know. Where's the good cutter?
Oh, that guy?
Yeah, thank you.
But just it is interesting. One of the things though, like, cause I hang out with all kinds of people. A lot more Calvinists now than I do when I was younger. I'm never so into all that, and you're just stupid if you entertain anything else. And
Would you say your church is like a Calvinist church?
Reformed.
Reformed. I know that's a thing. I've just not interacted a whole lot with. I know Calvinists, but I've never been like in a church where like that's the predominant.
yeah,
thing.
that is definitely the predominant.
Okay.
yeah. I find it fascinating because to me it's extremely consistent with scripture and doesn't make too many assumptions that I'd say like, wow, that's deviating from scripture a lot.
Yeah.
It's just looking at it in a completely different like paradigm than we're used to. Oh, why did I bring that up? Oh man, I lost it. But I was saying, what can irritate me about them, and it's probably like the underdog syndrome, right? Because they're kind of a minority right now in the wide world of mostly dispensational like thinking.
In the Left Behind book series movement.
Yeah, because they would like say the Left Behind is just completely out there, like it's as accurate as the movie Alien or something.
Sure.
But what I do say to them, I was like, okay, so your eschatology and all the end of the world stuff, I was like, but at the end of the day, like, does it change like your mandate for how you're supposed to live your life, like at all?
Right.
And I don't think it does. Like, they always say, like, we've got to get rid of this discipline, and I can see that now. I used to think it was completely rubbish, but I can see where the dispensational, like the rapture's about to happen any moment, and therefore we might as well just hide in our basement thing. I thought that wasn't real until like COVID almost, and I see a lot of people living that out. Where it's like, why fight anything? Why try to do good? Because it's just like, this is it. This is a sign of the end, and let's just sit in the fetal position and wait for God. And I was like, that's so lame. Like, if anything, if God's about to show up, I want to be like doing something in His name. And
You think if you want to, not that it's a lie, but if you wanted to spread a lie to sideline all the Christians, that'd be a good one.
yeah, so that's in that vein. I'm like, oh man, that kind of reinforces my idea. Like, maybe it's a lie, because we just see the Klaus Schwab stuff as like, look, there it is.
Yep.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Like, just stockpile
Ammo,
which is also funny because I'm like, well, how are you going to fight your way out of something that's inevitable too?
Right.
But that's what, like, stockpile ammo and gold and
water and food.
yeah,
We've got a little bit of it.
which is funny because then I see that as inconsistent, because it's like, if anything, I'm stockpiling ammo and food if I'm only seeing this as a stupid little rebellious stage that humanity is going through,
Yeah.
and I want to live through that, or my children to live through that for this glorious age to come where we're gonna.
Yeah.
But you just see so many Christians with this like pessimism that now is coming out through their hands
Yeah.
and through how they interact with the world. And
You
I'm
see
like,
it a
wow, I
lot.
think it is
It's kind of
a
icky.
bad mindset for us to be in.
My dad got really duped into that when he was in high school. So his dad, my grandfather, was Jehovah's Witness. And then he challenged the church too much and got kicked out and ostracized. And so then he just got bitter and angry and started his own cult. But my dad was convinced that he wouldn't even make it out of high school. And then it'd be the end of the world, so you might as well just... Doesn't even matter. Don't even bother going to college.
Don't get married.
Don't get married.
Don't have kids.
None of it matters. Like, it's just any moment now. And so that really influenced a lot of his decisions when he was a young man. And now he's,
What, 80 something?
80.
Yeah, 80, 81.
You know,
Also, things
fortunately
too-
he figured things out and he had a family and, you know, created
Yeah.
a legacy, but thank goodness.
Well, even like the church I was at, and it's not like I left this church because of this or something, but we would go to the early service I don't think I'm pro split services either.
That's fair.
That just seems lame to me. But I'd go to the early service because I'd prefer it.
Like traditional and then modern.
Yeah, I hate that. Like really, like we're all this Christians and unity talk, and we're gonna even segregate within our own one
I don't like your
individual
songs.
church
Yeah.
because of the songs. Really, is what it like comes
what it
down
comes
to.
down to, yeah.
But
It's not the sermons.
hanging out with the old guys, who I love old guys.
You do.
But they have the same thing like as your dad. Is like they've been waiting for.
We gave it back to you.
Where are you looking for?
It's
Guillotine?
Here's
oh, here it is. Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry.
they've been waiting for it since they're in high school.
Yeah.
And there's one thing to be like waiting for it, like, or like Daniel instructed the like Babylonians like wait for this. It's going to be hundreds of years from now, but like be looking for this. But another thing, like it's imminent, so I'm not going to even do anything with my life. And they're all like 70 and 80, and they're still like any day now. And it's almost like they've invested in this like losing proposition so much now, like I've got to ride this stock all the way to the bottom kind of a thing. Instead of, I'm fine with the idea that that's exactly how it's all going to play out, but I'd say you'd have to mature into realizing that like it might not be this weekend though. It might be hundreds of years, so I might as well live my life worshiping Christ and teach my kids to be doing that and teach them to look for Christ to come back to, but don't like paralyze them with this idea that it's going to happen any moment
In your lifetime, yeah. For
just
sure.
like this is going to happen. This is what our people look for, our Messiah to come back. I don't know. I guess there's just there's a mature way to stay in that, still in that eschatology, but not live it out the way we've seen our culture live it out, which has kind of like neutralized us. Because like our culture is like nothing to. We have like no moonshots or anything like what we're trying to do. Elon Musk is the only one talking about being an interplanetary species because he sees even the secularists like pagans. They're not trying to expand life. They're like, well, we need to just curtail it. Let's use less energy, less water, less babies. Unless we just all slowly die. Like, let's take over the cosmos in God's name.
Yeah.
If it's here for us. And if he wants to come back and stop us, because he's like, I didn't mean for you to live on Mars, he can do that.
He can do that.
But it's like the dispensational idea that the end of the world is coming is so pervasive in our culture that believers and non-believers alike have nothing to look forward to and are not trying to build anything.
Interesting when the non-believers are almost taking the same approach.
Can you see that? Like, isn't that weird?
I've never made that correlation.
It's so weird to me. But
I don't want to align with Klaus Schwab.
no, but like as Christians, we kind of are. It's like who are we just all gonna die because we run out of resources, or are we all gonna die because of the Antichrist is gonna kill us? But it's like the same thing.
The same thing.
I'm skeptical of any like feudalism in Christianity at all. But I think that can also exist on like the hyper Calvinist end too, right?
I'm sure it can anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. And so anytime I come across that,
Well,
that paralysis of just like stay in this thing, and you're almost like you're not living at that point, right? Like in a Christian sense.
what I've seen with them, and it ties into the hardcore predestination. And I grew up just thinking predestination, all Christians believe in that. I didn't read a doctrine about it. I'm just like, all right, supreme being creates everything, knows everything, so as you're reading scripture, like it shows like not only does he know everything, he pretty much causes everything at the same time. So it's like if I pray to him for anything about my future, I have to believe in predestination. It was my assumption. And I didn't realize it's a big, like, fight.
Sure, yeah.
But, what's my point again? See, and I'm not even drinking. But, too many caveats.
They're good caveats.
Man, what was I going to say? Darn it. It wasn't even that profound, too, because
We're just talking about, like, yeah, the Klaus Schwab Christians.
So they're obsessed with predestination. Like I said, I think it's just an assumption about the universe that God controls everything.
Yeah.
How that works with our will, I don't know.
Yeah.
How does this whole triune God thing work, though? I don't know.
Sure.
So there's lots of those. But
Because you're predestined, like God's created good works for you even before you were born. Like this, this is kind of going to be your life, and there's going to be things He wants you to step into.
and it's funny because the Armenians like hold on to that so much,
Yeah.
like, but then they'll fight you on like that God is in control of anything. It's like, well, how could He not be if you're holding on to this whole like God's going to make my life good or meaningful?
Yeah.
But what I've noticed with like the hyper Calvinist dudes is they're so committed to this sometimes that they won't lift a finger because it's like, well, if God wanted the gospel to spread in Africa, He would do it.
Yeah.
I don't need to go do it. And I'm like,
Is anyone going to do it?
yeah, I was like, that's stupid. But I've like run into that where it's like, if someone wanted that, why are you talking to that person? If God wanted them to be a Christian, He just would.
Yeah.
And I could see how like a third grader dealing with predestination would get there, but I can't believe like grown men are like that. And it's like Scripture mandates us to go do that. So whether it's futile or not, that's what we're told to do. You know, your young son, if you tell him to go dig a ditch and then tomorrow tell him to fill it up again, he might say, well, this is pointless, but it's like, Dad told me to do it, so we should be doing it.
Yep.
Let him figure out whether this is pointless or not.
Right. So our church is going to launch something new in January. What are they calling it again? It's like a small group.
Oh, the discipleship thing?
Yeah, but what are they calling
Oh,
it?
I thought you guys already rolled it out.
They're going to roll out replicate groups. And so when you look at the Great Commission doesn't necessarily go out into all the world and like convert people. Like that's not really the job of the church to convert, but it's to disciple.
I agree,
That's different than a lot of people think. But what is discipleship? What is mentoring other men, like per se? Say if we started a group of 3 or 4 of us and we mentor each other and we build each other up and we learn more about Scripture, like that's
What we're doing.
That's full on discipleship, right? That's what we're doing right now. I think that's what we're called to do. We're called to like wrestle this stuff and work this stuff out, and you know, like even Paul said, to work out your salvation. I think that's what we're called to do. And obviously,
It feels natural to me as a Christian, honestly.
it feels right.
This feels right. I want to do this with like everybody.
And there's very little of this actually happening,
Yeah.
which is concerning.
Well, and so why bother? If the world's gonna end, we can see that. Also, just what do they say? Our culture's so atomized that we don't get together. But you're right. That idea of like, what is a church about? Because right now it's like the seeker thing is like, it's not a good church if you're not like bent towards like unbelievers coming in, and it should be all about like trying to convert them and stuff. And it's like I've kind of leaned towards churches for like believers that already believe or are starting to believe, or some are already on this road. Not like invite the atheists and we're going to try to convert them at an altar call. It's like we're there discipling. That's fine outside or whatever, but in church, like we're all Christians here and discipling one another and edifying each other and growing each other up more and more.
Yeah.
Maybe so we can go out and do that, but not that our church service needs to now cater towards like the unbeliever. This isn't the place for the unbeliever,
Right.
in a sense. Not like you couldn't walk in at any time.
Sure.
Do you think that's like a post-Billy Graham kind of problem?
Oh, that's a good, could be, yeah.
The evangelical movement hasn't quite, like churches still cling on to that a little too much
I think you have a good
in
point.
a non-effective way.
Yeah, because then it's all just about like convincing and persuading and bringing people in. It's like, what about us? It's like, well, I've been a Christian for 10 years, but I would like to grow in that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're fine. I want the next unbelieving guy.
And yet you've got a bunch of shallow, lukewarm Christians in your church that haven't been discipled ever. Mm-hmm. And then we wonder why people flounder and leave.
And then also, like, the atheists that you're trying to bring into the church have been, primed by Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and all them to be like, okay, well, why would a good God allow, kids to die of bone cancer? And then you're like, I don't know, like, I've never thought
Jesus.
about that.
Yeah. Jesus.
And it's like, it's one thing for you to say, like, I don't know, I'll research it or, find someone who knows. But also, it's like, what does that say to the atheist that, like, we haven't thought about that?
Right.
That's, we're just jumping from point to point, but that's another thing that drives me wild with, I guess, the stereotype of the, like, modern churches. It's not even that their eschatology is wrong, that they're wrong about anything. It's just that the culture itself, like, forget even the Christ aspect, but the culture is such an immature, unthoughtful one, regardless of, like, the topic. They're just kind of fat, dumb, and lazy.
It's
insane.
cozy. It's cozy.
And so when you layer Christianity on top of it, we're just fat, dumb, and lazy Christians who like a good story about Noah's Ark, just like the next guy. But other than that,
and argue about music.
and argue about whether this music like
Wood pulpit or glass pulpit?
Phil
Wood
Whitman or
pulpit or
Chris
glass.
Tomlin.
Churches have split over that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Or the wrong wallpaper.
Yeah, just like idiotic.
Then you go to other countries and like they're excited, like they have a Bible.
Yeah,
I've never seen a Bible
exactly.
before. And they're like, what are we doing?
Perspective.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I suppose like, right, like if we were so mature and we've solved so many problems, the last problem is, eggshell white or cloud white.
Yeah.
And that's the last one. It's like, maybe that's worth arguing about, but like not if we're not there yet.
Yes.
That's a very comfortable church, and I've heard said before too. Like any culture that gets so comfortable and apathetic that all of a sudden they get confused about gender and all these things because they have nothing else to think about or like wrestle with. And I feel like the church kind of got to that point too, where like we're going to argue and wrestle about stuff where everyone that showed up had breakfast that morning. They drove in a fairly nice car. They're going to complain about the choice of coffee that we're serving at church. Like, if you're at that point, but then you have 9/11 happen and churches were packed, and those people couldn't have cared less about wood pulpits or anything else. They were like, whoa, is this the end of the world? What's going on in my life? And so I think some of that's actually kind of healthy for the church, like a little shock and like, what's actually really
I
important.
think churches need to be a bit edgier.
I think so.
And if people don't like it, then that's their problem.
Right.
Because, like, Christianity, you need to be able to handle edge.
Well, that's why this, oppression that we see, but like the oppression that we rub up against every once in a while is probably pretty healthy for us in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Because at least it's a reminder.
And I think a lot of that, Dominic, comes back to, like, what does God actually desire of mankind? Is it for us to just sit on our hands and wait for Christ to return? Like,
Yeah.
if you had a child, would you want them to just, like, sit around and wait for something to happen? Or would you be like, no, you need to be reading books, you need to be, like, challenging your beliefs, you need to be challenging your faith, you need to be challenging your principles.
Read books, Riley.
If your principle's not right, then you need to adjust, right? I think that's what God wants for us, right? We need to always be, not evolving, I hate that word, but, like, always, like,
I love that world, and now it sucks.
yeah.
Just like I used to love the word diversity. Now it sucks.
No, it sucks.
You're right, though. No, well, that's a great.
Like
To
as,
me-
as a parent, I mean, he's our heavenly Father. He's Abba Father. He's our daddy. What does daddy want for us?
No, you're exactly right. To me, like once I had kids, so much of this stuff started to make sense.
Yeah, agreed.
Because God, He calls Himself Father through Scripture. Tells us to call Him Father. So that's a great model because we're all, well, three of us, future father, we're fathers. And so you start to understand that model.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, the absolute last thing you want for your son is just like sit in a safe room
Be a bum.
and grow. But that's how
Atrophy.
that's how our culture and our churches like approach it now, where it's like just sit and be like safe. And what you want for your son is like, I don't want you to go die, but like go have adventures and go build something great.
Go do some hard stuff.
And it's like that's what our
Build character.
Father wants us to do.
Yeah.
Go build. That's where you talk about all the alien stuff and the this and that. The more I've like flirted with the preterism thing, right? Because when you're in dispensationalism, not that it's hard and fast that way, but you're kind of locked into like just the earth.
Right.
And the idea that we would do anything beyond that is kind of just doesn't fit with that model that well.
Yeah.
But if this game's a lot longer than we think, and we can see out there that God's created worlds that like the cosmos is like as far as we can tell, it keeps expanding.
Yeah.
What if God intends for us, whether it's in the new heaven or whether this state that we're in now was just elongated, what if just like a couple hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago, there was like rumors of like another continent, and some people have been there, but like I don't think that really exists.
Yeah.
And now we sit here, we built a whole civilization on it, we just sit here like it's normal.
Yep.
We fly back and forth. Why couldn't that be Mars or another galaxy?
Right.
Given 20,000 years or something.
Sure.
I don't know. Because God's just like, I built this whole playground. You're this high, right? Like you're a kid. You're like, you can't ride your bike to the mall.
Yeah.
But one day you'll drive to the mall and I won't even be with you. And you'll buy stuff.
And your world will be so expanded and different than it is right now.
Yeah. And you might say, son, don't leave Grand Junction without telling me.
Yeah.
But one day he'll be even more mature and he'll say, Dad, I'm calling you from France or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just extrapolate that farther? And it's still all God's thing. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to jettison Christianity and now go to Ancient Aliens or something. That seems like it could just all fit.
Yeah. Then you get into Tim Alberino where he thinks there were creatures actually created on other planets and there was actually wars on other planets, like angelic wars on other planets. Like, I think there's like that much scripture that might support that.
Yeah.
At the same time,
C.S.
it's like,
Lewis space trilogy stuff right there.
it is. But I think at the same time, it's like, well, that seems crazy right now, but now we've documented most of the land, other than Antarctica. We still need to figure that out.
That's pretty exciting. And the water. Like I always
And the
think,
water. And under the
we've
water.
done nothing under the water.
Yeah.
And we have so much of the, I guess you'd call it the surface of the planet, but if you think of the ground or under the water, that we've got nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll conquer that. In a way that like, 3,000 years ago, like coming to North America, we wouldn't even have imagined it,
Right.
probably. And even if you did know something was that frigid, is that what we're going to do? Canoe over
What are
there?
we gonna do over there? Yeah.
That's like super exciting, even though like I won't see it, and my kids and my grandkids may not see it, but someone might.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because I don't say like, yeah, I really think that's true, but I don't not think that's true. Because why couldn't, if you're dealing with this infinite being, you could have done all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I mean, he made stuff over here when he's speaking to his people Israel, and they're like in this. I mean, their whole like, what's like going from like Egypt to Israel to Babylon sometimes, to where like maybe Greece. It's like such a little
small world.
spot. But he's doing stuff all over. Oh, there's my alarm already. Snooze. He's doing stuff all over at that time on this planet. And we always think like the Bible had to be this exhaustive. It's just like God's like, no, I'm dealing the same like with your kid again. It's like we're not talking about you're gonna do all these things, but like right now, like you're learning your timetables.
Right.
And we're gonna like I'm gonna beat that into your head.
Yep.
There's time for all that other stuff.
Yep.
why not? That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Especially when you think like, and you never know, like, okay, well, what is their relation, like, so other beings that he created, another God, like, what is their relationship to sin? Like, did they fall? Maybe they didn't. And so God's like, look, you guys are dealing with the sin thing. We got to deal with that first.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little while.
Right.
In your mind, in God's mind, it's like, hey, we're going to deal with this for 20 minutes. You're going to have a timeout for half an hour.
Yep.
In our mind, it's like, oh, this is thousands of years. Come on. But when you're ready, when you don't sin anymore, and I've basically written a book that kind of brings you up to that point when you don't sin anymore,
Right.
then you can play with the neighbor kids because they're nice kids. And I don't want you to
Right.
screw with them too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally making this up,
It could be possible.
but that doesn't contradict scripture.
No, but that would make a
all.
lot of Christians very uncomfortable. Very much so.
It really would.
Yeah.
And so it's not worth talking about unless you're in like certain circles, I guess. But I don't see why that couldn't be and couldn't be exciting.
Yeah.
I like to push that on people though. Like ask them like if whatever the subject is, like if the Earth is 13, or if the universe is 13 billion years old, would that threaten your faith? And if they say yes, then it's like I don't think you have a very profound faith.
Yeah.
If you think like if there were
And I was there at one point.
if there were beings on other planets that God created, or that we find, would that shake your faith? Yes. Okay. You don't have a very profound faith, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because I think there is that wiggle room, and so many people, they're just locked into that channel and that path, and they don't want to entertain anything like that.
When you talk about the Bible, it's like at a certain point you're on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so much of the scripture, even New Testament, was like, it was very hyper specific and hyper local. And I've even heard the argument recently, which we don't need to get into that, but where Paul was saying that women shouldn't speak in the church and shouldn't teach in the church. Well, a couple, especially the Corinthian church at that time, there was a sect of women that were really bringing in some unchristian doctrine into the church. And Paul's like, no, cut them off.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be talking. Does that mean for the rest of time women should never talk in church? Is that what Paul was saying? Or was he saying, in this specific situation, in this church, you guys have a problem. Like, you're getting drunk during communion. Knock that shit off. Right? Does that mean you can never serve wine in communion? I don't think that's what Paul was saying.
Yeah.
So I think context is so important. And I think Christianity's, we've lost that understanding of, like, again, that Second Temple Jews and what they understood, and Paul was speaking to them, and they were coming into Christianity. Like, that was very specific. How much of that really applies to us today? I think some of it, yes, and some of it was just, it was the teaching for the time.
People like to wrap Corinthians, Ephesians, Philippians, Romans into like this general church doctrine that we need to follow completely as the church going forward.
And we came out of that church, which is like every church, the only true church is like a New Testament church. You have to exactly follow what Paul taught for the New Testament church. It's like, well,
It's like, why didn't he say the woman thing to Philippians?
which he didn't.
Yeah, it's like they're all different letters.
He spoke to problems specific to that church at that time.
Yes.
Right.
And some of them were global and universal and
timeless.
evergreen.
Yeah.
And not all of them.
And so I'm
Not
not
every
fully like
church
out
needs
of
to
that.
give their coat back to Paul when they see their friend, whoever,
Right.
at the end of the book.
Well,
You know what I mean?
where I'd say I still like adhere to a lot of that, where it'd be if we can't clearly discern, if he doesn't like plainly say like, hey, this is just for these guys,
Sure.
then I always just have to guard against things that like as a woman, basically it hurts their ego and their pride when they deal with that.
Yeah.
They try to make all these moral arguments, but it really just like comes down to like pride of like, what do you mean I can't say what I want?
Right.
I got things to say. Like you can't clearly discern that he's only saying that because of these particular women. then I always say I have to kind of default towards like, I don't want to just go and sin because like I just feel like it, and I kind of just explain it away like, well, Paul just meant it for that time.
Yeah. Right. That's an easy escape as well. Yeah.
Because when you see people doing that, it always is towards their like ego.
Right. Yes.
No one ever says like, well, I think God doesn't love me, because when they said God is love, that only meant that was for that time, and
Right.
love your enemies for that time. It's like, well, yeah, because everyone wants God to love them.
Yeah.
But it only happens to be like, well, he was only saying homosexuality was bad for those people. Oh, because you happen to be homosexual and you want to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So just try to guard against that stuff.
Yeah, I think there are some teachings and principles that are universal and timeless. I mean, I think our founding principles for our country they're timeless principles. And I think the founders knew that. And we've talked about it before, but there's that idea of, classical idea that human nature actually doesn't change. We don't evolve. We're not like becoming better as people. We're just people. Now we can have more knowledge and make different decisions, but I think at the crux of who humanity is, we've been the same since day one. And so I think that's true. That's why we read the Bible. Because if we're evolving, we're changing, we're becoming more perfect people, we don't need the Bible, we don't need Aristotle, we don't need Socrates, we don't need any of the Greeks, right? And that's what the neo-Marxists think. They think that we could actually evolve to a place where we don't need law enforcement anymore, because we're going to create heaven on earth. We can actually evolve people out of sin and crime. We won't need the police anymore, and we'll create heaven on earth. It's an atheistic idea, and it comes out of Freudianism and all of that. And I reject all that, because I think humans are humans from day one until now. Obviously, post-Christ, to your point, I think the world has changed. And I think we're in a very different place now, which is good. Where's it over there? But that's kind of the argument that you hear and that you see. And I think sometimes it's misapplied in the church, like you said, that, oh, well, that was just at that time, like, don't have gay sex. But now, it's a different time, and that's not what really Paul meant. He just meant
Talking about
at that
boys.
time, a little too much gay sex, like let's tame that back. Dial it back just a little bit.
10%.
If it's in the Senate chamber, then it's okay.
No.
Then you're just a victim.
And even that, when you're talking, I'm thinking back to our magic wand type thing. Like, so, okay, assume they're right, that we can evolve out of the sin or evolve to where, like, gay sex is good for our species or something, whatever. Even they're, like, forced. Like, we're plainly not there yet.
Right.
So, give it another 2,000 years, we'll evolve. One little, cell in our brain will tweak and it'll fix a lot of things. We're not there. So we need to keep a lot of this in place.
Or you'll get the Elon Musk, Neuralink.
The Neuralink.
It'll be good.
Yeah. So everyone's trying to force, a magic wand towards their utopia. And whether you have that paradigm or not, plainly things, go very much slower than we'd like them to.
Right.
I also think they're wrong with you. But even if they were right, it's we're obviously not
We're not there.
there yet. Back to the fossil fuel thing. I do firmly believe we won't use fossil fuels forever. It seems like the model we've been given is geothermal stuff or nuclear stuff, or the sun's the easiest thing to point at. You could have pointed at that 4,000 years ago and said I think our energy comes from there.
Yeah.
That made sense.
If we can
We worshipped it all the time.
create that hydrogen bomb on Earth, but controlled.
Yeah, so
Unlimited power.
we'll if God lets us get that far, we'll do that.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna do that in 2030 because we just invented cars.
Right. And we're not going to be able to socially engineer us out of our sin nature. Mm-hmm. We just can't. people are always going to want power and control. They're going to want to violate other people. It's just, I mean, it's the history of mankind.
Yeah, and we've never,
There's no indication that that's
before,
changed.
yeah, history, there's no evidence that we have one like iota less of a propensity towards like abusing each other.
Right. And you can take countries like Canada or other countries that seems like they've kind of got it figured out. They're just happy, they're just doing their thing. And then you've got one thing like COVID or something else happens, all of a sudden like, nope, we're going to freeze the bank accounts of all the truckers because they're opposing something. It's like, whoa, okay. All of a sudden we're back to like borderline barbarianism where it's just like,
Yeah, so we're plainly exactly the same humans that, like you said, Aristotle wrote about, exactly the same humans Moses wrote about.
yeah. That
As far back as we can go back.
We just have laws that will get us in trouble, so we don't do it.
Yeah.
Which any properly functioning government, that's one of their first roles is to protect its citizens and then also have a certain level of rule of law. That allows us to live somewhat harmoniously without violating each other all the freaking time. Because if Dominic and I lived on a desert island and I was growing pumpkins and he really wanted a pumpkin and he comes over and just starts taking my pumpkins, those are mine. But you've got chickens. Hey, let's trade. Well, I don't want to trade. I want to steal your pumpkins. All right, let's put a magistrate or a sheriff or someone in charge. Here's our rules. I create my stuff, you create your stuff. We don't violate each other's stuff. And as soon as we do, then we give this sheriff power to then
To figure it out.
figure it out. Right? That's
And if
a
we don't do
government
that,
in a
you're going to
sense.
kill me or I'm going to kill you.
It's Lord
and
of the
then
Flies.
You'll have all the chickens until they're all eaten and dead because you know how to raise pumpkins.
Right.
And now there's no chickens for you.
That's called capitalism.
Yeah.
It's a very moral and just system.
And that's what's all these losers that want to like down with capitalism. It was like, you couldn't even get rid of, because capitalism is just built in, it's natural too.
It's a natural law.
You think people complaining about capitalism are just complaining about corporatism?
Corporatism, they
Could
point
be.
to, they point to Walmart, they point to all this big stuff that
Big powers.
big powers.
But once you get to, right, corporatism is really like socialism inside companies. And
Right.
because we associate companies with the word business, we associate the word business with capitalism, we just conflate it all and say, well, obviously it's bad. But all this weird corporate stuff that we see, all them all colluding to do, it's all this weird social. They're not capitalists
Yeah.
like at all.
It's crony capitalism. It's when Microsoft decided to give away Internet Explorer. You're gonna give a product away for free. People lost their ever-loving minds, sued Microsoft, and the federal government sided with them and said, nope, we're gonna punish Gates, which I'm not a Gates fan.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you give away your product for free? It's unfair.
Yeah, I already paid $9.99 for mine.
For
My version.
I don't even, what was the other internet
I didn't even know that. That's
browsing software at the time? I don't even know. That was
when
back
was this?
early 90s,
It was like Netscape Navigator, maybe.
probably,
or
yeah.
Alt.
And so that's crony capitalism. It's like, so they're like, oh, you've got a monopoly, so we need to like stop this, and you can't just give it away for free. It's like, hey, if you want to give away a product for free and you end up dominating the market for a while, I mean, you go all the way back to oil. Oil used to be one guy owned all the oil.
That was interesting. Like when one day I sat down and I did the like thing. Like every company we've like ever worked for is the same company.
Yeah.
When it comes
You
down
just
to
all
it.
got-
When it comes down to it,
Yeah.
broke it up and splintered into these companies, and it kind of coalesced back into like the same three companies, which was actually owned and run by the Rothschilds.
It's so. Yeah. So there's people that probably have a legitimate complaint about the corporatism thing, and I think they're conflating that with capitalism. So we need to get rid of capitalism in all its forms. And then it's probably also just a lot of. I say losers. I don't mean losers like I'm making fun of you in high school because you're a loser. I just mean like the losers in the game of capitalism, where it's like I'm not doing well right now, And instead of figuring out like how do I fix that,
it's almost
it's like the system's just
I'm a victim to this system of things.
yeah.
And,
And if we just got rid of that, it's like if we got rid of capitalism, someone's just gonna come and shoot you and take your car. I mean, like
yeah.
that's because then we don't have a system for how do I get the things that I want.
Right.
Unless you're, this Renaissance man that's good at, I know how to build my own car, and I know how to raise corn, and I know how to tame a horse, and I know how to do this, which, James Bond in the movies maybe can do that, but that's a fantasy. That's where like you're good at that, and so if my back's bugging me, I go to you, and I'm good at whatever the hell I'm good at.
Which is why the essay I Pencil is so good.
I pencil.
Have you read it? So Milton Friedman talked about it, but it was written before his time. Milton Friedman was one of the great economists of our time. I mean, he was with Reagan, he was with Clinton, he was with a bunch of administrations, but he's like, yeah, you look at a pencil, he's like, no one person could make a pencil.
Yeah.
Like the
Same
wood,
with a toaster, right?
same with a toaster.
That TED talk of the guy who tried to make a toaster from scratch couldn't do it.
Forget it. The graphite in the middle, that probably comes from like Southeast Asia. Who even knows? Like they're mining this or creating graphite. The rubber on the end. Who's like mastered the art of creating rubber that can erase? And then the little like foil thing at the end. Totally different mining system. Thousands of people that are involved in creating a little foil that holds the eraser on there. And then the wood, the shaft. And then just manufacturing all the different parts. No one person could create a
You
pencil.
can get like 10 of them for $1.
And you can get 10 for $1. That's capitalism. It's all these different industries, all these different tens of thousands of people that are mining and doing these different things, and it all comes together, and then they can finally manufacture this pencil, which is almost meaningless to most of us now.
Yeah.
But you try to go out and make your own pencil, forget it. There's no way you can do it.
Well, and that's back right when I love the word diversity. Because of that.
Right.
Because there is this, what do you call it in plants, hybrid vigor or something, where it's like, in all these cultures, we're all the same Homo sapiens, so we have the same brain, roughly, but because of our geography, like you were stuck here for 1,000 years,
Yep.
and you only had, rubber trees and whatever,
Yep.
and I'm stuck here, and we kind of developed like these skills just to survive. And then now, in the modern world, like the beauty of us all meeting, what's weird too is like all this like we've kind of all just met. I mean, there were some cosmopolitan times, I think,
Yeah.
and then something would happen and we'd all separate again, and then we'd come back.
Yeah.
Like Rome was pretty cosmopolitan, like all these things, back to Rome. But now we're all meeting for the first time. It's like, wow, you're really good at that. Like, I've been trying to do this forever, and I was missing your one skill. Like, get over here, let's do it.
Yep.
It's pretty, and capitalism's how we do that.
It's fuel.
And we don't need a word for it. We're gonna do it anyway.
We're gonna do it.
It's not a made up. That's why the communism, the socialism thing is like this forced, like you've got to always keep herding the cats back into like doing it.
And make everyone homogenous. I mean,
Yeah.
that was Maoist China, right? I mean, to the point like Mao was like, we need everyone to be exactly the same. I mean, that was the killing fields of Cambodia. It's like, if you wore glasses, you look smarter than everyone else. You can't look smarter.
Yeah, how about that?
We're gonna shoot you. We're gonna kill you. If you're taller than everyone else, that's a weird social advantage. Like, we don't need advantages. We need everyone to be the same, so it's fair. So let's kill all the tall people. That's what they did. Like, he played that out in real time, and it was
Freaks.
disgusting. But that's DEI. That's diversity, equity, inclusion. That's critical race theory. Right? That's neo-Marxism. It's like, look, everyone needs to be the same. No one gets ahead. Everyone's taken care of. It's Marxism, right?
Yeah.
Everyone according to their needs and according to their abilities, and
Yeah.
it's
Sounds good, eh?
on paper.
But I guess it's just a really short-sighted, small-minded thinking of like, yeah, you're a loser today. That's why America's like really cool, because you really can be like a janitor today and CEO tomorrow.
Yep.
and it's all based on just the weird weave of life of like this opportunity that falls in my lap that will never fall in your lap, and I take advantage of it, but a different one falls in your lap, and because there's some advantages of being short, but if you're just always obsessed with like all the tall people, they can pick all the high bananas. I wish I could get all the bananas.
But if you're short and you can work in a gold mine really well, more power to you, man. Because you gotta crawl through the crevices and do the mining
And again, it's like, it's hard because we have locality, right? I'm just one guy,
yeah,
and I was born in the mid 80s,
yeah.
so I'm probably not gonna make it past, I don't know, the 2050s or 60s or something. But if we could ever get outside of ourselves and realize that like, this is all kind of working itself out for our progeny, if we just get over all of our envy and covetousness, again back to like what would it look like without sin? Because eventually, my people who've always been oppressed and just could never figure it out on Earth, one day we're gonna go to Mars. And it's because my people didn't even develop the technology to go to Mars. Someone else's did, but we went with them. And turns out there's something on Mars that gave my people, like, we run everything now.
Yeah.
Because whatever. That just keeps playing itself out. Yeah, it sucks, because, like, my 70 years, I'm a slave. But it's not like, locked in.
Right.
I don't know. That sounds crazy.
I feel like we've kept you here for longer than you need.
I've like pressed myself like 3 or 4. I should probably go.
Yes, you should.
We love having you here, but
You said something about 8 o'clock and it's now,
8:20.
go
8:20.
take care of your life.
Yeah.
These are always amazing conversations.
I love doing this.
It's great.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
We'll get Ray here. He hates talking Bible stuff, so we'll make him talk Bible stuff all the time.
Is he? What's his religious leanings?
I don't know. I mean, just to guess, I'd say like Christian, like cultural Christian,
Okay.
right? Like people that like I'm conservative, so it's like that kind of comes with the territory. But as far as like
Practicing.
practicing or taking it seriously, I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course, he'll hear the recording and say, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, but we'll put the screws to him. We'll find out.
Right, because most of us are like culturally Christian, whether we like it or know it or not, just
Yeah.
because it's just,
Grew up in the West.
yeah. Which again, I think is a good thing. Like, it's a sign of like, it's better than like being culturally like pagan.
Right.
It's just a step along the road to where like eventually everyone will be like actually Christian.
Right. We all get to enjoy the fruits of the Judeo-Christian heritage.
As it like permeates our world. Back to my like criticism thing. Again, like the thing that convinced me, and I am gonna go, is just like, I don't see the world getting worse. I see like little dips.
Yeah.
Like if Klaus Schwab and Gates get their way, they might kill half the population. We might suffer for
And they'll get a ton of pushback.
500 years or something.
Right.
But in the scope of things, so far, human life continues to like, persevere and do better and better.
Yeah.
Like, if you think like World War II, it was really bad. Like, the whole world was in it. So it's like, people back then probably thought it was like, it's just gonna get worse from here.
Can you imagine what Christians must have thought during that?
I think, yeah, that time period too, maybe it was like, if there's any time when you're sitting there, you're like, this has gotta
This
be,
is it.
this is it.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting here like 80 years later, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
So what makes me think
This is it.
that this is gonna be that?
Right.
You know?
I see this pendulum, and anytime it swings this way, it swings harder this way, and it keeps going back and forth. And I'm curious as to when it will finally hit like critical mass into one direction where it can't go back.
Newt Gingrich wrote a book on that. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, really?
He was on the Sunday Special with Ben Shapiro probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was probably the most riveting interview I've listened to. Like, I've never been a huge Newt fan. Like, he was kind of before my time. Where like he talked about the pendulum. I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. And
Was it the book, The Pendulum? Did he write that book?
I don't
The
remember
book?
the name of the book that he wrote. I'll have to look it up. But he talks about that pendulum, how it'll always correct. Like New York City, horrible mayor, rampant crime, prostitution right on Times Square. And then the Jewish guy, what's his name, became mayor.
Oh, Julian.
Giuliani.
Yeah.
And he did like stop
Yeah, he
and
cleaned it
frisk,
all up.
which was like not popular racially. Cleaned it all up. It's like, and then now, like I was in New York City 12 years ago. Like I just walked on the streets and
That's
it
the
was totally
thing,
fine.
like people say
But now
like the
it's changed again.
70s, like these cities like New York, and Chicago's still like,
Always crap.
these places that were like just unlivable, and now they're no big deal. That doesn't mean it's like this linear, like it's always going to be great, but it didn't just collapse and die.
I think California see it. I think the
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, like he was governor for a while and he was pretty good. Gavin Newsom, not so great.
Not so good.
And I think we'll see a different governor again. The pendulum will swing again. I mean, you have, the Communist Party of China show up into town and he cleaned everything up in like a week. It's doable. You just have to have the right motivation.
If you have the will, you have to do it.
You got the will.
That's oh. All right, I'm
It's good having you, man.
Okay.
Thanks so much. This is so fun. I'll let you keep your.
Good to have you.
I brought all these like layers.
I know, but we didn't need
It's
them.
nice and warm in here. It's
I
beautiful.
know.
It's warmer than I was expecting, actually. It's
Yeah.
pretty nice out here.
It's all the cigar heat.
I'll see you guys next time.
I like the haze of smoke.
Yes,
I know.
very nice.
Oh man. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Back to the wife.
Say to the wife.
Thanks, guys.
Pretty
Good to
well
see you,
said.
man. So what are your thoughts on the Olivas?
They were a little tight and kind of hard to draw for me. I don't know if I cut down not far
Maybe
enough.
this one's been good.
Yeah, I may have not cut down far enough. So the draw was a little weird, but the kind of flavor and notes were pretty good though.
I
liked it.
agree. I think they're probably cheaper made. So they're probably a little less consistent on the draw.
How much was this box, if I may ask?
And that's not all. I got more in the house.
Oh.
There were a lot of cigars in that box.
I mean, this is. It's what, like 6. Jeez. Maybe like 36 or so?
Sounds right.
Probably about 36. That's not too bad
I
for
think
a
the
box.
pricing, but I'm trying to watch like what we're spending right now on pretty much everything.
I mean, likewise.
But
It's that time of year.
it was like I picked this over the Oliva cheap cigars I normally get because they were a good deal.
Okay.
And I think they smoke better than the cheap ones I get, as far as just quality
Yeah,
tobacco. but
what was the name of that, like, budget one that you said that
Yeah.
what's his face said was an everyday smoke?
I can't remember.
It was an Oliva brand, right?
It was, but it was like one of their more like economy cigars.
Yeah.
And this one I'd never heard of before. I didn't realize it was Oliva that made it.
I mean, it's not on there, but it
Yeah.
is on the
It's on the label.
band, yeah. Do you have that guillotine? I'm gonna try to cut a little lower.
But they were pretty economical.
I would usually go for 3 cigars, so.
Yep.
But when in Rome, huh?
I mean, if I were to guess, less than $5 a cigar. There's that many cigars in there. Like I didn't spend that much on it.
Okay, that's fair.
And it was like a deal. I've been watching for their deals.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes their deals are like, it's not that great. Like there for a while, they had a crazy deal on all their like promo packs. Where like the packaging is more robust than cigars.
Right.
They're just, you could tell it's almost like swag. Like they're just trying to advertise their product.
Right.
But there for a while, they had them like 75% off. So that's that one time I bought like
Oh, yeah.
7 or 8 different like promo packs. It was like, oh, get like all the different Oliva cigars. It was like
That's better.
10 cigars for whatever price.
That's
And it was
way
like,
better.
that's $3 a cigar. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't cut down far enough.
Is that better?
I think so. I mean, I cut down
way more this time, but way better draw.
When the draw's not good, it's just
I don't know what it is about certain cigars where the ends are way tight, and like the rest of it, because like I mean obviously it's the same cigar as the one I smoked, but like now that I've cut down far enough, the draw's fine.
It's weird. Like I've had somewhere I have to like work the end to almost create like air pockets where I can actually get a draw. It's like you hate to have to like work your cigar the whole time.
Right. Do you need to get up for work in the morning?
I do not.
Tuesdays
Tuesdays glorious. I take Tuesdays off. I have a haircut tomorrow. That's my only plan. And Andrew's requested that I go super short because I'm getting kind of thin on the top anyway. She's like, "Oh, the weird like thin fuzzies is weird." I'm like, all right, I don't know that I'm ready to like go full like bald.
That's the question, is like when you start to kind of lose it a little bit, is like when do you just accept that, like which I've said, like I will say, like you've pulled it off very well. You've never looked like a guy in denial.
Yeah, but I'm not doing a comb over. I know guys that do that. They come into my office, they take their hat off and they comb their hair over.
That's pretty bad.
It's like, you know,
just accept what you've been dealt. I'm in a really weird spot because like my hair can get. I just had a haircut today, so it's not a good example, but my hair can get pretty thick. If it gets long, it gets really thick.
yeah.
But I definitely notice, like definitely around the front, that it's not.
Yeah.
It's a little thin.
That's where I started.
So like I mean, you know, I'm 31, so I don't know like what it's gonna turn into. I don't know when it started for you.
I had good hair in my 20s, and then in my early 30s, I started to see it like my hairline started to recede just a little bit.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden in the back, so now I've got like this halo, but it's not like full on male pattern baldness.
Yeah.
You know, those guys that are just like 32, they have to like, it's all gone.
Yeah.
And they've got this like thing around, and that's not cool anymore, so
Yeah.
just shave it all off. And I'm almost 50. But, you know, male pattern baldness is a female trait. Well, it's passed down through the female. And so mom's uncle, which you probably didn't know, Orville, you know Orville?
I've heard the name.
Yeah. So ever since I knew him when I was a child, he was all bald on top and had the like the little halo, you know, rim of hair.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that's where some of that comes from, which is basically just hyperactive testosterone that burns out your hair follicles too early.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh.
And so some of the hair washes actually help like break down that hypertestosterone in the follicle so it lasts longer. And there's some stuff that actually grows some of the back. You can use like red lights and other stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, I tried the red light. I actually bought a cap that you like wear on your head for like 10 minutes a day, and it stimulates the hair follicles, and it seemed to actually help a little bit, but it's like, that's kind of a big commitment, like every day to put this thing on your head.
I kind of don't care. Like if I end up, you know, going the same route as you, that won't bother me too much, because it's, you know, you've leaned into it pretty well.
If you're anything like Dad and Mike, it'll slowly thin over time, but Dad still has a full head of hair.
He does.
Mike still has a full head of hair.
Yeah.
But you can see he's got a little
very
thin
wispy
spot in the back.
Yeah.
It's very wispy. Yeah. And mine feels same, very wispy, but I don't have the curl that they have.
Mm.
And you've got a teeny bit of curl, but not really.
When it gets long, it gets very swoopy and wavy.
Yeah, so I think you've got a little mix of that.
Okay. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how it'll pan out for me.
Do you have like the chest hair and the back hair and all that? Yeah. Yeah.
I got like the wings on the
Yeah,
back, you
yeah.
know, the shoulder blade,
Yeah.
you know, which I didn't know existed until like a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I saw it like in the mirror when I like turned around and like
What is that?
what? I didn't realize I had hair back there.
Yeah.
Haley didn't tell me. She's been scratching my back for however long.
She obviously doesn't
didn't
care.
tell me that I had a bunch of Robin Williams back hair.
So, yeah, when Andrew and I got together, it was kind of the same thing. I didn't really pay attention to it, and I mostly had like hair here, a little bit here, and then I had like the belly hair.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I had the back hair. And she's like, "You want me to shave that for you?" I'm like, "Yes, no."
Well, what are you talking about?
And but then in my mid-40s,
I know, right? When you're in it, you don't realize it.
Yeah, I gotta practice.
which you can crack that. It's plenty warm in here.
Yeah,
But then in my
definitely.
mid-40s, like even my arm hair got like super wispy and like it would stand up straight and it was like fluffy and like, what is this? So now I actually shave my arms,
Oh, really?
but not all the time. Like
You unlock this.
it's hard
your
turn to the
hands.
left. It'll pop. You might have to push the door in a little
Yeah,
bit.
you might need to like pull or push.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go. I've been to enough poorly constructed houses for real estate shoots to know that you
Oh,
need
gosh,
to jiggle doors.
When that door was
not lock
installed
yourself
in
in.
1984, yeah.
Have you seen what's it? Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
The new scene. You gotta push. You gotta kick it in. You gotta kick in the door.
Yeah.
What? Kick it in.
What is right? I told you.
It's a Tarantino.
Yeah, I think you should watch it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good. It's a.
It's underrated, dude.
and it's Andy's favorite movie, and I watched it with him. And yeah,
It's Aiden's?
Andy's.
No,
Oh, Andy's.
Andy's,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's-
that doesn't sound like an Aiden movie.
Have you watched many Tarantino movies? You've probably seen Pulp Fiction.
Believe it
Ages-
or not,
ages
I have
ago?
never seen Pulp Fiction.
What about Inglourious Basterds?
I think I was in school. When I was in copywriting school for that 4 years,
Yeah.
I didn't watch anything because I was
Really?
so busy. So there was a bunch of movies during the,
Pulp Fiction was like 94 though.
yeah. So 94 I would have been,
I was 2 years old.
that's crazy.
And his first movie, Reservoir Dogs, was when I was born.
I think I just started Mesa State College.
Okay.
So same thing, just really busy, living with mom and dad, so I'm not renting movies and watching that stuff at home. So
Right.
it just didn't show up on my radar. And I wasn't going to movies at the time because I was busy with school.
Kill Bill.
I watched part of the first one.
Okay.
Andrew and I rented it. It was too harsh for her,
Sure.
so we shut it off.
Okay.
I was interested. Not opposed to any of it, just it kind of all fell under my radar.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the, I would say one of the first kind of indie filmmakers, because before him and like Kevin Smith making Clerks,
Yeah.
before them, everything was just whatever Hollywood
Oh,
put
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So like whenever you went to the movies, you were just at the mercy of whatever Hollywood. Granted, 80s, great decade for movies.
Yes.
Some great stuff. But once the 90s hit, there was a lot of indie movies that started to get big.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like people making stuff with whatever money they had.
Yeah.
And then it kind of catapulted into, you know, the movements. Like, you know, like I don't think if Tarantino and Kevin Smith didn't do what they did, like M. Night Shyamalan probably wouldn't have been able to
Right.
do what he did.
They kind of paved the road.
Yeah, made it to where like different stuff was able to kind of get injected in, like more adventurous stuff. Because like the stuff that I really like from like the 60s and 70s, you know, like Stanley Kubrick and all that, like they were having their heyday back then, but in the 80s it was all just Hollywood,
Yeah.
which was great, but there wasn't a lot of like forward-thinking stuff, pushing the envelope, but then
Yeah, very, very little of it was interesting.
Tarantino kind of broke that mold, and then in the early 90s with Reservoir Dogs, and then from then on it was like, oh, we can do kind of interesting stuff, and there were some cool things that happened in the 90s and 2000s and onward.
Remember in copywriting school, Andrew and I watched CSI,
Mm-hmm.
like the original CSI, not like CSI Miami and all the other stuff.
Which
And-
how far back does that go?
I mean, that would have been early 2000s because we left in 2000, the year 2000 for
Mhm.
copywriting school. We started watching Survivor that just
Yeah,
came out. That was a
yeah.
big deal.
Amazing Race,
It's
all that
still
stuff.
on TV.
Really?
It's insane. Oh yeah, I haven't watched it in 20 years, but it's still on TV.
I know that What's His Face, the guy who hosted it, has like come back and is hosting it again.
That's what I hear. He originally like founded and developed it, and then did it for years and got out, and then he came back recently. Yeah. So one of the last episodes I remember watching on CSI, Quentin Tarantino directed
Really?
the episode, and it was like dark and good and interesting.
Yeah.
One of the CSI guys got buried alive, and they had to like rescue him and figure out where he was because a serial killer like buried him.
Yeah.
It was like super good. Quentin Tarantino.
There you go.
I don't think he wrote it per se, but I think he informed a lot of the writing process, and obviously in his directing. It was pretty dark.
I've heard about that. Like, I think there's been like various people who have gotten to direct one-off episodes of like different things. Like, I could be wrong. I think Carrie Elwes directed an episode of like Criminal Minds.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And it's like, you know, you never would have think that would have happened, but it just does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the original CSI series was really good. It's pretty gritty. A lot of the episodes had like sex stuff and like sex crimes and weird stuff.
Because it kind of followed from like the police procedural stuff of
Yep.
like the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like Magnum PI and all those.
Yeah.
Which were, you know, they weren't like home viewing. They like people watched them because they were kind of gritty, right?
They were a little more gritty. They're still quasi family friendly, but you know, a little bit more gritty. Yeah, and then CSI comes out, it's like, ooh, this is another level. Yeah.
And then they started like CSI Law and Order started spinning off into multiple different
Yeah.
kinds of things.
And I have not watched mainstream TV anything in forever. I just don't.
What's insane is I heard one time like Mad Men, the viewership that Mad Men got was like dwarfed in comparison to Law and Order or CSI, one of those shows,
Yeah.
by like 10 to 20 times. So like there is a faction of people out there who will watch Law and Order or CSI just because it's on, and they don't care about, you know, dialing into like, oh, I'll watch Mad Men or I'll watch Breaking Bad, or like, you know,
Yeah.
they don't dial into specific shows. It's like, oh, I just got home from my shift at the grocery store being a checker for 8 hours. I'm gonna go home and have my TV dinner and watch Law and Order.
Right.
And that's what they do, and that's what they like.
And I never watched Law and Order.
I didn't really either.
And maybe it was a good show and it was interesting, but
I think I remember watching CSI New York.
okay.
Like when it
Was
first
that
launched.
Jim Caviezel? No, who was the main character in that? Because CSI Miami was that dude from, he was in the George Clooney and Something After Something Dawn. Was that who directed that? Was that
That did From Dusk Till Dawn or something.
Dusk Till
like that.
Dawn.
That did.
Was that Quentin Tarantino?
That did star Quentin Tarantino.
And one of the guys in there became the main guy in CSI Miami. And I didn't like him as a character. Like I didn't like him as an actor. He was full of himself.
So there.
I can't tell you.
The main guy in CSI Miami is David Caruso.
Yes, didn't like him.
The sunglasses guy.
Didn't like him. Just as a person, I just didn't
CSI
like
New
him.
York is Gary Sinise.
Gary Sinise, yeah.
Yeah. Lieutenant Dan.
I love Gary Sinise. Dude's a patriot.
Good patriot. Yeah.
He's a great guy. I got to meet him.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
So, long story, very short. Someone that I supported for a political candidate here in Colorado, her husband worked for Disney, and he was a Disney producer.
Okay.
Flora is her last name, and she's now running for U.S. Senate. They're an amazing couple. They're just like a power couple.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good friends with Gary Sinise.
Really?
And so I was in Denver, and it was at an event, and she was hosting an event, like for her candidacy. So I showed up. Freaking Gary Sinise is there. And he's in a band. And his band plays.
Of course
I'm like,
he is.
this is amazing. So I got to meet him, shook his hand. I'm like, dude, I'm a huge fan. This is amazing. Super humble guy.
Wow. Who is
Yeah.
this?
Gary
You
Sinise.
got to meet Lieutenant Dan.
What band?
Lieutenant Dan.
Oh,
Great
From
guy.
Forrest Gump.
wow.
He has a
Yeah.
band, and I got to hear his band play.
It's super cool.
Could have got a picture with him, but there's like a long line. I'm like, I'm not like a picture guy. Like, I don't need a picture of me with Gary Sinise. It's like, what is that? Means nothing. But I got to shake his hand and meet him, and super cool.
There's like an echelon of actors that have. I mean, like, I feel like Gary Sinise kind of predates this a little bit, but like post woke movement 2016, like you have people like Rob Schneider.
Yes.
I don't know if I would say like necessarily like Dennis Quaid, but like there are people who, you know, are openly like acting in certain movies or doing certain projects that are very much antithetical to what they are comfortable with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they just decided to be like, I'm going to be a pariah and stay true to what I think is, you know, what I think is true.
There's that guy that acted in The Shift. You seen anything about The Shift yet?
No.
I can't remember the guy's name. You would know him. He's always the bad guy. And he played a bad guy in this role. But he got blacklisted in Hollywood because he refused to kiss other women. Because he's like, I only kiss my wife. Blacklisted. Great actor. But The Shift. Like, I want to watch it now. Like, that's... Thank you for holding to your principles.
The Shift. Neil McDonough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great actor.
Can I see a picture?
That guy.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
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 Always the bad guy.
Yeah,
he's
he's
a
a good
great bad guy.
I've seen him in a lot of things.
Yeah. But he's principled. Heaven forbid you're principled in Hollywood.
No kidding.
Like the guy that played in Passion of the Christ, same thing. It's like,
Yeah, and what's the movie he was in that you said you watched or didn't want to see? The Sound of something?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom.
Still haven't watched it.
Still haven't watched it.
It's a little gritty. It's about human trafficking.
Right, yeah. But like that movie did incredibly well, and a lot of people saw it and think it's good.
They started with like one showing one night. Like packed theaters. Let's add a couple nights. Then it went on for months.
Yeah.
And it was like Angel Studios produced it. Or
Yeah, the Chosen Studio.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad that they're kind of branching out because I haven't seen any of The Chosen. I kind of want to wait until they're able to finish what they're doing to watch because I don't like to start things and then have to wait unless I know it's really good.
I'm a late adopter to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well done though. I watched the first season. It's like, wow.
Like, say what you will about Christian filmmakers, I think most of them don't know how to make movies or TV shows. They just like, it's a very subtle thing. I think most of the best movies or TV shows that someone could learn from to make good quality movies or TV shows, Christians don't want to watch because it's secular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they just don't learn, they don't understand the craft at all. But from what I've heard about The Chosen, they seem really like deft and they understand how to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of waiting for them to be able to finish out what they're doing before I watch. But I've seen some clips and it seems very grounded
Yeah.
and not like fluffy.
It's not fluffy at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very just kind of organic and yeah.
good acting and the actor Jonathan, whatever his name is, who plays Jesus.
Yeah.
Great, perfect casting.
And a bunch of those people kind of came out of nowhere
Yeah.
and just like filled the part and did a really good job.
Because they wanted to cast people who would fit the roles
Yep.
of that era and time period, which, you know, good on them. Like,
God bless Mel Gibson for doing Passion of the Christ, but it was whitewashed, honestly. Like, whether or not he wanted it to be. Had actors in it who honestly probably couldn't care less what the subject matter was, like Monica Bellucci or whoever the Mary Magdalene character was.
Oh, yeah.
Probably, she's very much not anything remotely close to a Christian, but yeah, The Chosen, it definitely seems to be very special, and so I'm eager for that to finish so I can kind of binge it a little bit.
And the director, he was also on Ben Shapiro. I don't think it was a Sunday special. I think it was just one of his like quick
Dallas
little interviews.
Jenkins.
Yeah. And listening to him talk and like his model for how he's doing things, like, well, that's different.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Yeah.
Good on you. Like, he took a chance.
How do you feel about Lady Ballers?
What?
Have you watched it?
No.
I watched it.
What do you think?
I think it's really, really important. And I don't agree with all of it, but I think it's really important that we preserve comedy in America.
Yeah.
Like
Show
comedy
comedy.
that's unfiltered, uncensored. That's what comedy is. I remember listening to Seinfeld on comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
And he was on an episode where he had a comedian and they were talking about comedy. And the comedian, he's like, I'm really concerned that comedians are now feeling pressured to be politically correct. He's like, that's not comedy.
No.
Comedy is making fun of all the crazy and the stupid and the weird. And you've got to be able to make fun of it.
Yeah.
That's comedy.
Yes.
And I was surprised. Jerry Seinfeld, he's like, I agree. He's like, I'm really concerned about comedy. He's like, that's the last bastion of like non-politically correct. That used to be SNL. They used to make fun of all the stuff.
Yes.
And then Trump came into office. Let's make fun of him. Biden came out into office. Oh, hands off. What? If you want to make fun of anyone and it's freaking hilarious, Joe Biden like falling downstairs and doing all his stuff. SNL finally realized after their ratings plummeted, I think we need to kind of like...
It seems like they're coming around.
They're coming around. I wonder if it's too little too late.
Probably.
Because when I grew up, like, I remember at Clifton Bible Chapel every Sunday morning, us young people get together and talk about the SNL episode the night before.
Really?
We all stayed up and watched it.
That's great.
And we would talk about, like, remember Crystal Brady? Because it was a spoof on Crystal Pepsi.
Yeah.
It's like, it was so ridiculous. And Crystal Brady, it's like so freaking funny. They just made fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just did that over and over. And then all of a sudden, like, oh no, now SNL has to be politically correct. And I think they lost me. I haven't watched SNL in 2 decades. I mean, I'll see clips on that on Instagram and other stuff. But it's like, they lost me because they became politically correct. It's like, if you can't make fun of Joe Biden, there's so much content available there.
Yeah.
It's like, what's wrong with you? And they finally figured out, like, we probably need to get back to our roots. But again, maybe a little too little, a little too late. I don't know.
I saw a clip with Adam Driver. You know who he is?
Oh yeah.
I think it was a recent episode,
Was it Thanksgiving one?
possibly, where he's playing the piano in the intro.
I saw a clip where it was like he was trying to put something down at the table and another guy was doing the same thing. I don't know if it might have been the same episode.
He was hosting, so he was like introing,
Yeah.
the bands and all that.
Yeah.
But he's like sitting at the piano, like talking about, like he's talking to Santa. And he says something about like you guys are gonna be like upset at me that I killed Han Solo. I didn't kill Han Solo. Wokeness killed Han Solo.
I saw that.
You saw that?
Yes.
And I'm like, the fact that SNL
Yep.
is allowing a joke about wokeness,
Yep.
like that's a step
Yeah.
in the right direction that I never would have thought they would have done.
I think they need to bring back Christopher Walken introducing Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters! So good.
I also saw some clips of like Jack Black introducing the Strokes. Like the Strokes, or whatever.
That stuff is so good.
There's a like subculture on YouTube of hosts introducing bands.
Yes.
That is so funny to me. And one of the ones that like has always stuck with me, and I quote this to this day, is Daniel Craig. I know where I'm going with this. Hosting the SNL, and he's introducing The Weeknd, the rapper.
How did that go?
And well, the way he introduced it, he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, The Weeknd." And so like people like do that like they post that as a meme to be like, "Oh, we've arrived at like Saturday."
The weekend.
Yeah, it's like, and so like anytime it's the weekend, I'm like,
It's funny.
"Ladies and gentlemen,
The Weeknd. So
they're like, he doesn't even sound defeated. He's just like, it's here."
I love it where David Grohl's like, he's like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, because Christopher Walken, he's like, is the emphasis on this or on that?
Yeah.
As far as Foo Fighters. They're like, but they weren't sure what he was going to do. He's like, the Foo Fighters. So good. I love it.
It's the Foo Fighters.
I could listen to that all day long.
Oh man, I don't know if this is completely true or not, but I think when he reads a script, he purposefully removes all the punctuation
I can see that.
because he wants to add his own punctuation and like his own flow to the sentences.
That's gonna be interesting to see him in Dune then, Dune Part 2, because he's the Emperor in that.
Oh really?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I heard that.
He's the Emperor in Dune Part 2, and I don't know how big that role he's going to be playing, and I could totally see it being like 4 scenes and that's it, but
What's he going to say?
but like, especially in a movie like that, deploy the
You need to get
Deploy the Foo Fighters.
get out there and do some fighting.
Moves get Rackets back.
Oh my gosh.
Did you ever watch his skit where he did the Continental? So that was his skit. He'd come up here.
And it was like a point of view thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like he would like look like you'd be from his perspective, the camera.
And it'd be like he'd invite a girl into his apartment,
Yeah.
and he'd like be talking to her, and then he goes into another room. And there's like a one-way mirror or whatever. I know. And then the like where he's like got the cactuses. He's like, they got googly eyes because cactus are just they're kind of weird. And they're whatever. He's like, so I put googly eyes on him. And then he like sprays them, sprays them with water. It's like no one else could do that.
He was on. He did the Continental like 3 times.
Yeah, it was so good.
Man,
Gosh, that's good SNL.
There's this like recent like comedy thing that like, well,
you keep talking. I'm gonna point it at us.
okay, that I've known about, but I've also been more introduced to of recent. But I don't know if you know Nathan For You. You're familiar with that?
Who's the actor?
I don't know if his name is Nathan. Well, let me look it up.
Is it Nathan Fielder?
I think so. Hold on, let me look it up. Because, yeah, Nathan Fielder.
I've not seen the show.
So, I think this is it's really funny because the show essentially, so, alright, back up a little bit. One of my friends is watching a show by Nathan Fielder. It's like Nathan For You, but it's...
Is it the newer one?
Yeah, on HBO. It's called like,
I don't remember what it's called, but I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
so it's a newer one though.
I've not seen a single episode of anything he's
Yeah,
ever done,
but
but I know about this.
The new one though is like super funny. It's very similar to that, where they hone in on really small things and then like exaggerate them.
Mm-hmm.
But with Nathan For You, it's not like super recent, but it's still somewhat recent. Where it's like, I still think it's a very good like thing of comedy in a way, but. So in the show, he's this like he graduated from like business school or whatever with great grades. This is in the intro, and you see a flash of his grades, and they're all like B-, C, D, or like just like really bad grades of stuff. But he's like, I graduated with like stellar grades, and so he's just saying that. And then he like his like personality and the whole thing is like he seems super like standoffish. But like he's offering this advice to these businesses to get more like growth. So there's this one where a gas station in like this is all takes place in LA, I'm pretty sure, but a gas station like offering really big gas prices, but they want to see more like traffic there. And I don't know what it's called. I'm forgetting the word, but it's where like you submit a form and you get your money back in a way.
Okay.
You know what that's called? It's like
No, I don't.
don't know how to explain it, but like basically, like I don't know if this is a great episode to. Okay, I'll just do this other one because this one makes more sense. But there's this nail salon that needs more people to come there, and they're not getting a lot of traffic. So his suggestion to the owner is, well, have a valet service. You know, take the
I know.
a valet
A bit much.
have a valet service, take the ladies' cars and park them for them, and then have it be a whole experience. But the valet drivers are stunt drivers. He hired off of like Craigslist or something. So he hires these stunt drivers for them, but he doesn't tell the owner. So then, and then the stunt, and these are okay. The thing is all these people are real people with businesses and stuff, but like they're in the show without knowing they're in the show, kind of. In a way, they're just like it's almost like a documentary of like oh, we're just documenting his thing with this, and the people don't realize it's all a joke. So yeah, they hire these stunt drivers. And he doesn't let the stunt drivers know that like they're supposed to be this valet service. Well, they kind of know, but they think it's for something else. So then the ladies are like, all right, well, we'll take your car, and then they take the car, and then they're done. And then like the stunt driver just starts ripping around the corner, starts doing like donuts and stuff, and like parks it, and the people are super confused. And then like when the owners like gets not upset, but they're kind of confused about it, he's like, it's so hard to explain, but he's just like, well, it would have worked, or like he just like keeps like.
So it's a show that's kind of like
I'm not explaining it very well.
but it's like real life candid
Yes.
reactions to crazy things.
Yes, but like his personality is like making up and stuff for that to be very funny. Like there's a taxi there's a taxi company that they needed more people to use taxis, and I guess like there's also a like statistic of like every so often that there's like deliveries, like pregnant women delivering in taxis and stuff, and it gets a bunch of like news headlines and stuff and gets very popular. So his thought is to basically like make that a thing where women can deliver in taxis. So he gets a doctor to sterilize one of the taxis of the guy's company, and he convinces a lady to give birth in the car, and then the owner was not sure. He's like, he didn't know that he was setting it up. So he's like, wait, I didn't know you were setting up somebody to deliver in this. And then the person got like, and there's like a doctor, there's like an IV station, all that. They're getting like the whole thing's sterile and all that. And the woman kind of gets like wigged out by it. And then in the background, there's just this guy that's just sweeping in the empty warehouse that they're in. I'm not explaining it very well, but it's super funny though.
I understand.
But
That's good.
yeah, it's just kind of like their reactions to it, and then his way of acting is super funny though. But I recommend it.
Have you guys watched Impractical Jokers?
Yeah, I watched a little bit. Yeah, they're very funny.
I think I've seen it.
You have?
I don't think I've seen it.
You guys at HBO, right?
Yeah, HBO Max or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just Max now.
Max.
Because
It
they're
used to be called HBO Go, and then it was HBO Max. Now it's just Max
because they're pretentious.
because they have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, all of Impractical Jokers is on Max, and I think you would like it a lot because
I'll check it out.
it is four guys from New York, very New York show.
Yeah.
All like friends and stuff that have been friends for a while, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they were a pre-existing like comedy troupe for a while, named something, and then they made a show that was just basically like kind of like a prank show in the wild.
Okay.
So the idea, the format of the show is they all have to do something like difficult in the wild, like being an employee at like a deli or something.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, this guy is now an employee at the deli, and all the three other guys are like talking to him on like microphones in the back room, and if they have to do what the guys in the back room tell them to do. So like a customer comes up,
I've seen that.
yeah, and it's like, refuse the customer or whatever it is. If they fail, that they get a loss. They've lost that challenge, and then whoever
loses the most. Or
whoever loses the most on that episode gets punished. And if they refuse the punishment, they are kicked off the show. So like they have to do the punishment or they will be off the show.
Okay.
And the punishment is like usually something crazy, cringy, really hard to watch, difficult for them.
maybe dangerous.
Possibly dangerous. That's a good one to watch.
Okay.
That's a good, bedtime one to watch.
They're not that long either.
No, it's like 30 minutes, like a 20-minute episode.
And yeah, so Nathan For You is very similar to that, where they it's like in the wild and stuff, but it's like they approach businesses and stuff. So
Is this where they'll have like one guy go in, he's got like an earpiece and they'll tell him what to do?
yes,
Yeah.
it's exactly like that. Yeah.
Like it'll be like him and a bunch of women like on a panel.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, so you need to say like
Yes.
that
Oh,
wins.
the panel ones are
That-
so
such and
funny.
such.
That one you're talking about is a punishment. That
That was a punishment.
that one guy had to go on like a feminist panel
Yeah.
and say these things because he lost the episode.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he had
I've
this-
never understood the whole context.
Yeah, in Practical Jokers, it's hilarious.
Very funny.
So many good.
It's kind of like a lighter riff on. What's it, Jackass or whatever? The guy
Little
can
bit.
just do crazy stuff.
A little bit.
But it's more like set in certain contexts.
It's very like interpersonal,
Yeah.
like societal context. Yeah.
They're not jumping a bike over something and
No.
breaking their leg.
No. But some of the punishments are fantastic, and
They're so creative.
one of the ones that I loved was this one actually was this may have been a punishment. He had to go into this massive bingo hall in New York, mind you. Granted, New York people.
Right.
And he had to sit amongst these bingo people. Anytime a new ball came up, he had to yell bingo.
Oh my gosh.
And like three of them into it, he's like, guys, I can't do this anymore. And then a ball would come up, and they're like, bingo.
These bingo people take that seriously.
Yes. And so he'd be like, hold up his card, like, bingo, and everyone would be like,
Not even close.
oh, it's like everyone was getting so mad at him. One of my personal favorites, the hardest one that I've ever had to watch, was one of the guys was hosting this like painting class, and he was just kind of like telling these. It was these little kids and their mom, and they were making these little paintings, like these little 8-year-old girls, 10-year-old girls, and they were trying their best to make these paintings. And he failed to do what they told them to do. And so this happens sometimes in the show. They turn one of the challenges just into a punishment because they realize, oh, you're going to lose anyway. We're going to turn this thing that you're into right now into a punishment. And they said, what you need to do is you need to go to all of these like 6 girls' paintings and just draw a big red X over every single painting, one after another, and say that they didn't do a good enough job. And like, as soon as they said that, I'm like, oh no. And so I had to watch this guy go up to every single painting these girls did and just completely ruin them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
That's so bad.
Thankfully, the girls, like, because they show, like, after the fact, like, the girls and the moms, like, talking, because they realize it's a TV show afterward. And then the girls are, honestly, they're like, oh, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But, like, the look on his face when he has to, like, draw a big red X over the painting they just slaved over for half an hour.
It's brutal.
But what a great show.
One of my, I think it was a punishment, but one of my favorite ones was, I'm pretty sure it was a punishment, but he was, I forgot who it was, but they were at a restaurant and he had to be a server, like somebody bring out the food and stuff to him.
Are you talking about the slamming on the tables?
I know, I'm talking about a different one. So basically,
Okay.
I think what they do is like you have to bring out the food, but he's behind this like or these black curtains in a corner of like the restaurant. They spin him around in an office chair like a bunch of times. They give him the tray of food and like let him go out, and he just he starts taking it out, and he's super dizzy, so he just automatically falls over and trips, and just like this like makes a huge mess, and he just does that over and over again. It's really funny.
It's very good. There's so one of the funniest guys, Joe.
Yes. Joe was
He
really
went
funny.
through like a divorce and ended up like leaving the show because he wanted to spend time with his kids.
Yeah.
So the show kind of like changed after that. Like they tried to supplement his absence with like having guests on. So they got like David Cross and like different celebrities. I think they may have even got like Post Malone or something like that. But like the show wasn't the same after him. But there's like 5 or 6 seasons of just hilarious episodes. So like if that's up your alley, like highly recommend binging that show because there's so many good moments. And it's just like it's honest, down to earth fun that like doesn't mean it's not mean spirited,
Right.
You know. But like I remember I was watching that myself.
Yeah.
And Haley was like, oh, what's this? This seems like, something weird that Alex would watch. Right. And as I was watching it, she got really turned on to it and ended up like being really into it herself.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think you get a real big kick out of that show. There's a lot of good stuff.
And going back, that's on Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Impractical Jokers.
Practical Jokers, and also the show I was talking about earlier, Nathan Fourier was also on that.
Also on that.
Yeah, so which I'd highly recommend. The earlier season ones are really good. He does like his episodes are pretty like his little things he does are pretty short. So it'll be like he'll do 2 things per episode. So it's like he'll be interacting with like 2 businesses or 2 individuals per episode and stuff.
Okay. Pretty similar.
Yeah, like I'm actually remembering this one. There was just one where this guy was really lonely and needed a friend, so he decided to be his friend essentially. It was like through an ad or something, and they just had like a very just nice time out on the town. They just like went to a hat shop and tried on some hats, or went like go-karting and something. They just like he was just his friend, and then he confessed to him that he wasn't really his friend because he was doing this fakely, and it was but then they were still friends after that. It was really funny, but like because like some of those will turn into like it's funny, and it'll turn into like it's like more than a joke in a way, but it's still funny though. You're like I don't know. It's just
I will check that one out.
they're very funny. Especially I don't know there's this one about Best Buy. It's like it's like about Best Buy and price matching. I forgot what that one's called, but it's like the funniest one that I've seen though. I can't remember all the details of it, but it's really funny. So, but yeah.
Is there a specific episode that I should watch first?
Not really. They're not like interconnected or anything. Well, some of them will go back to like a business, but that's like in later seasons. So if you're watching like the first, second, or third season, I think there's 4 seasons of them. Okay. So if you're watching the earlier ones, they're really funny. But yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty much watching Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. It's a separate season. But Skinwalker Ranch, they realized that there were probably high strangeness at different places in North America. And so they took, I know the guy, he's like a PBS and other network like journalist. He's like a video journalist.
Okay.
And he's always on camera, and he's really well spoken. And then they took another guy. He's like a ex-CIA and like researcher guy.
Dang.
And then they go to other places in North America. One of them is they call it the Rocky Mountain Ranch, which they said that the owners wanted to be like kind of anonymous. They don't want them or the ranch to be disclosed. But somewhere, like looking at it, looks like, I mean, it's definitely in Colorado. And so then this whole season, and they spend maybe 2 or 3 days at each place.
Yeah.
And then they come back to Skinwalker Ranch and then disclose all the stuff they discovered, which is like super weird, crazy stuff, And so that's what I'm watching right now. But I was kind of out of shows for a while.
What is that on?
So that is also on Max.
Okay.
And it's pretty quick episodes, but pretty wild stuff too.
Wendigoon is releasing Cryptid Iceberg videos.
Yes, he is. So we talked about Wendigoon
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
He started in on his cryptid iceberg.
You know what an iceberg is?
No.
I can explain it. So an iceberg is like essentially it's like a chart essentially where like you know how like you know when you're thinking of iceberg, there's more on below the water than there is above. So an iceberg like it can be on any topic or like anything like that. So you can have like a Star Wars iceberg or like a paranormal iceberg, like any sort of iceberg.
Everything above the water is stuff that's obvious.
Yeah, like it's very well known. People are just very like, you know, it's either common knowledge or just it's very popular. People just know it a lot, you know. So like Star Wars wise, above the water would be like the Force or like the Empire, just like kind of general stuff you know about that topic. But then like the further you go down, you go under the water. You get like there's like different layers. So there's like the depths, you know.
It's like a framework to say like most common thing, like level 1, most common stuff. As you go down, more obscure stuff that doesn't have as much information.
Yeah. So like the
Is
middle,
it like conspiracy theory? Not conspiracy theory, but like, what would you say?
it's kind of like
Like a gradient from like common knowledge to like borderline conspiracy theory, like
Yes.
fringe extremist stuff at the bottom.
Yeah, so it's like, for Star Wars stuff, it'd be a very common, well-known stuff. And then, like, at the middle would be, like, midichlorians. And then at the bottom would be, like, I don't know, like, Star Wars, like, legend or something. Like, something that's, like, very not well-known, but, like, not, like, there's not been a lot talked about it.
He's done like
it's not just a theory.
He's done like serial killer ones.
Yes.
He's done general conspiracy theory
Yes,
ones.
his conspiracy theory iceberg is so good.
Which is like 8 hours long
Yes.
or whatever. But he
So
started
good.
in on cryptids,
Okay.
and I think he's on level 2,
Yes.
and that's starting in on like the Sasquatch stuff and all that.
So, like, level 1 was, like, I think it was, like, level 1 had, like, Bigfoot and, like, but, like, level 2 had, like, Sasquatch or, like, skunk apes and stuff, you know? So it was, like, you know, it's, like, connected, but, like, not well known that much.
So
Like,
this isn't like I talked about Up the other day, like in the movie Up. That one
What?
of the theories is like the boy was actually one of her miscarried child,
Oh,
and then he actually came back to rescue dad.
that'd be like a level 3 or 4 thing.
Whoa.
Okay.
So, yeah, with an iceberg, it's, like, it's
Which
either...
actually works really well for the movie. It's like he came back to save dad
That's
Wow.
so... Okay.
and helped him get to where he needed to be.
Why is he Asian?
Wow. Right.
I'm joking.
Good point.
But no, it's...
So it's different than that.
Well, kind of. It's like theories.
It's just a way of categorizing like
Yeah.
obvious to not as obvious.
Okay.
Like, so it will...
That sounds interesting.
So like every layer of an iceberg, it'll talk about like, okay, this is a known thing, but not well known,
Yeah.
or like not as well known, or it will talk about like this is a theory of something, you know.
And what's the show called?
It's called Wendigoon on YouTube.
Yeah, he
It's on
Am I explaining that correct? Because I think that there are some theories covered, but then it's also just stuff that's not well known.
Well, we've talked about Wendigoon before. He is a creator on YouTube who has blown up because of his conspiracy theory iceberg videos.
Okay.
He is
Iceberg YouTuber.
in his 20s. He's a Christian.
Yeah.
Recently got married, and
The theology thing.
he likes making videos about these esoteric topics.
Yeah.
So
Stuff he likes, yeah.
he made this different tiered conspiracy theory video series based on someone else's iceberg. So
That's something made, yeah.
yeah, usually an iceberg is like just kind of a graphic that someone makes where it's an image of an iceberg, and then in every tier of the iceberg going down into the sea,
I'm gonna blanket.
it's like obvious stuff to like very esoteric conspiracy, like very fringe thinking, you know, from obvious to fringe thinking.
Okay.
So things like the serial killer thing that he did recently was just, you know, like obvious serial killers down into ones that you might not know of as much. And it's just kind of a gradient of obvious to like really interesting fringe stuff that you might not know about and no one, people theorize about. And it's just him taking other people's icebergs, and he goes through every entry in the different tiers and kind of expounds on them and gives context and like history about it.
He does like his research and stuff.
That's definitely up my alley.
He has a video titled,
I'll send you something.
I can't remember what the title is. I prove the JFK conspiracy with a whiteboard.
Yes,
something like
such
that.
A sick video. So cool.
Basically saying that like JFK was killed by the CIA. And he proves it with a whiteboard. Which is really great.
That's awesome.
Granted that he's like a 24-year-old just Christian YouTuber doing this stuff.
But there's plenty of information out there. Just put it all together.
Yeah, and he's made. I think I've shared videos about him doing the Angels video. I've shared. I think that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Talking about the like 9 different classes of angels.
When he's talking about demons,
He's gone through all of the Paradise, the Dante stuff.
Yep. So he did the Divine Comedy.
Yep.
So he did all 3 of them, and then he did
as well as Milton's
Paradise
Lost
and Paradise Regained.
Yeah.
So both.
Which a lot of people misunderstand that.
Yes,
Which
they do.
And I'd be curious to see what his take is on it.
And
You'd like it.
I
Oh, he did the Lost Books of the Bible. That one's pretty good.
yes, he's done like the Apocrypha.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll send you that one.
And like categorizes them in different categories based on like he calls them like blasphemy or biblical fan fiction or stuff like that. And I've seen him like people will say like I was struggling with my faith and like watching your videos made me like come back to the faith, and like he'll talk about that and like you can see him get like kind of emotional because like he can like he's very that means a lot to him.
So can we have him on the podcast?
No,
No.
because I'm pretty sure he's in Appalachia, so he's far away from us.
Or as he would say, Appalachian.
Appalachia. He's done a video on the Appalachia, like the crazy stuff that goes on over there, like the ghost lights.
Yes, I actually just sent the video.
There's some high strangeness there.
He did a video by like campfire light talking about the ghost lights. So like he's right up our alley of like this kind of stuff, and he's just this quaint little YouTuber, and like he's at like 4 million subscribers, and people are like eating up what he's saying.
You need to get that all money.
I know.
So he recently released. So he's doing his conspiracy or his scripted iceberg. And then he recently released a supercut of the serial killer iceberg.
Yeah, because he had done the serial killer thing before, but he like compiled it and kind of edited it and fixed it up a little bit. But
he would do videos like this conspiracy theory iceberg. He would do videos on each level, or with the conspiracy theory iceberg, it was so big. He did like one video would be like 30 minutes to an hour long and just be like half that level. So because there's just so much on it and like so much research he did. So he finally compiled that. It was like a 9-hour long video.
I don't remember why we were talking about this.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But
I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember.
I love that.
Oh, because we're talking Skinwalker Ranch, and then I talked about the cryptids thing.
Yeah, sure. He's gotten super big in the last couple years, and I'm very encouraged by that because like not only is he saying like a bunch of interesting things, but he also has like a very firm biblical foundation. And all of like the podcasts that he's on, people will ask him like esoteric biblical stuff, and like he's been like a Sunday school teacher for like little kids. So like he'll wax poetically about like Daniel and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, you're like 10 years younger than me, and you know way more than I do. I'm so glad that he's having success.
I don't know. He started 2 new podcasts.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, so he's done the Red Thread with
Critical,
and then I forget his name. I think it's Jackson. His
The creepy thing.
yeah. So no, that one's called the Red Thread, and then he did Creepcast with me.
Creepcast, yeah.
So those ones are I guess they're more like kind of interesting, light. Not like light. I don't know. They're not as deep, I would say. Like with the Red Thread, they talked about Goatman, and then they talked about something else. I forgot what their second episode was. But he's been on. He's now doing more podcasts with other people, and then he did one with Meat Can, which is actually really good because I actually really like Meat Can.
I'd love to see these guys get to that level. Like even the Blurry Creature guys, they've only been going since like 2020.
Yeah.
And they just had on John Christ, the comedian guy.
Yeah.
Like that's no small thing.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Like more power to you. And the thing is, like people your guys' age and some of mine, like we're not watching like sitcoms.
Right.
We're watching that stuff,
Yeah.
which is I think that's super cool.
I'm very grateful that he has gotten a big following because like he's a good guy. He has a good godly head on his shoulders, and he's making really interesting stuff. And like one of his first videos was like about like his gun attachments
Nice.
and like
Yes.
the different guns that he has.
He recently went to I don't know what it is. So some sort of expo or something, but with a bunch of other creators.
Which we should go do a podcast where we go out to the gun range and
Oh,
try out all our different firearms.
That'd be so-
That'd be so much fun.
That would be good.
Which we could go to the Cameo gun range. They've got a whole sheltered area where you could set up some cameras.
I haven't shot a gun in probably like over 5 years.
I would be more than happy to like walk you through shooting a couple different guns, like how to handle them and what to do, and it'd be super fun.
I've only ever shot pistols or rifles.
I haven't actually shot a shotgun at all.
I like to shoot a shotgun or a semi-automatic.
So I've got an AR, super fun to shoot, but honestly, pistols it's hard to beat.
They're
I've
fun-
got a
they're
couple
fun to shoot.
pistols with like red eye dots,
Yeah.
sights on them, and then if we could get one more shotgun ready, I keep saying this, we need to go do some sporting clays. So Cameo gun range, you can do sporting clays. So you go out, you stand in like it's like a metal enclosure, and then you swipe your card, and then you pull up. Someone pulls a clay for you, and it'll show you what the trajectory is of the clay pigeon, and
That's
then
cool.
you pull to shoot it, and you pay for each clay you shoot. So if you want to shoot like 2 or 3, because I can't keep hitting it. All right, let's go to the next one. You're just out there with your friends. There's no one else out there, and when you go back, you turn your card in, and you pay for how many clays you shot.
Is it expensive?
Super fun. I think that would be a blast.
That'd be
But
cool.
we need at least one more shotgun.
Yeah.
So we need to find like a fairly cheap, like 3-round pump shotgun. Because you could have 3 people share 2 shotguns. Like one person shooting at a time. You could probably do it with one if you really wanted to. But it's so much fun. But just going out to the Cameo gun range and like, because they've got a pistol range and they've got steel targets, so they're like steel plates, and you pull your weapon up, you aim, you shoot, ting, you can hear it. You can hear the lead hit the target. Ting, you hit it, the thing goes down. It's so much fun.
Dopamine, man.
Yeah,
It's good
Tell
stuff.
them. We should do it.
Especially shooting your AR, Dad, it's very fun.
I've never been to a range. I've only ever been to like, Whitewater with.
Ranges are pretty fun. They're a little
Which,
more.
looking back at the Haitz family going out and shooting, I will never do that again.
Yikes.
Like the lack of like
Gun safety.
gun safety, it's scary. You hope for the best for everyone, but like not everyone has the same level of training, and like they're just pointing their guns everywhere and it's loaded. And
I think if we went to with Christian, Travis, and Andy, because they go shooting, I think that'd be pretty fun.
I most of the times I've done it in the last like 10 years have been with Christian and Travis,
Yeah.
and they were very safe, and so like I never felt sketchy about it. But
Andy has his own gun, so.
I would like to do a range at some point.
I like the range because it's very controlled. and you've actually got like steel targets out there. And yeah, it's just, I've gone out to the desert with family in the past. It's like, like, you don't want to like be the boss and like, all right, everyone needs to like practice gun safety and know what you're doing. But like the last time I went out with the family, it's been 7 or 8 years, and like I was not comfortable with what everyone was doing. But if we could go out to the range, like probably 3 of us, maybe 4. You know, you got a couple people shooting at a time, and it's intentional. Like, all right, we're gonna practice on sighting in and then shooting certain targets, and it's not just like willy nilly.
And they also have they have steel. I don't know if you mentioned this, but they also have steel targets out there. So like when you're shooting, it's not like you're shooting at something like, I don't know if I did anything, like because
You can hear it.
yeah, because I've had that issue like when you're shooting at paper targets in like an indoor range.
No idea.
You're like, I think I did something, and it comes back and you're like, you totally
Missed
missed.
everything, yeah.
But they have like these ones where it's like there's like a almost, I don't know if it's called a tree, but like they're all like all on one side. You shoot it, it flips over on the other side, so you hit it. You hear the ding every time you hit it.
It's so rewarding.
Or they have I don't know what it's called, like a Texas star or something, but it's got the it's like a star. It's got plates on the every end. You shoot it, but they're weighted, so then it'll shoot, and then it will like start moving. So then you have to like shoot the other one and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really cool. But yeah, no, I have a lot of fun with it out there.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, I need to get my own gun.
You do really.
I want something to defend myself with. So
Although Colorado laws changed,
I know.
which is stupid.
So I have to wait till
21 now, have a
Yeah.
pistol in Colorado.
So like a year and a half.
You can go join the military and shoot people at 18, but not in Colorado if you're just like a law-abiding citizen.
Even if you're, say you go join the military and you come out of the military, would you still not be able to own a gun until you're 21? With that experience?
It depends.
Okay.
So you can have a certain license that you're basically ex-military, you've had the experience. So someone that I know, and I can't speak to their position or experience, they can conceal carry even on school grounds
Oh wow.
because they used to be a cop.
Okay. That makes sense.
So that's a certain level of whatever that you get, but
Yeah.
that's specific, obviously.
Because I'd like to at least have like some sort of firearm,
I think you should.
with like being on my car or even concealed carry, but
Yes.
so yeah.
Gotta wait till you're 21.
Will you buy it for me?
Right? But I think if we could get another shotgun,
I think that would be super
because
cool.
sporting clays is so much fun. It's basically like a video game shooting, but you're in real life.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So every
Duck Hunt,
every
really?
stage you go to is like the clays will come at it'll have like a little schematic like drawn out, and you'll see it there in the
It's kind of
middle. It'll be
what
like,
it
oh,
looks
the clay will come this way across. So it's like, all right, I'm ready.
Gotta
So
purchase your shot.
someone hits the trigger, then they'll pull two. You see it go and you shoot it. It's so much fun. And if you don't shoot it 2 or 3 times, like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't hit it. Then go to the next one.
What
Super fun.
What gauge is your shotgun that you have there?
It's 12 gauge.
12 gauge,
Which is
okay.
typical.
Would you probably get another 12 gauge, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you shoot 12 gauge or do you shoot slugs when you do that?
12 gauge, it's a scatter shot.
Okay. Oh, well, if you do slugs, it's kind of harder to do.
Slug is if you're shooting deer,
Okay.
and that's if you live in like the Midwest where you can't have a long range rifle
Oh.
because it's all flatland. So if you shoot with a rifle, it'll go for miles.
Okay, I see.
Who knows where it'll land?
But
In
slug.
Colorado, it's like you got hills and mountains.
Tree, yeah, we got stuff that can stop it.
But in Iowa, you can't shoot the deer with a rifle. You have to shoot with a shotgun, with a slug.
Okay.
Which is so weird.
Huh. Interesting.
But in Colorado, you shoot with a 30-06 or any long range rifle.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
But in 12 gauge, like you could shoot if you want to go pheasant hunting or quail hunting or whatever, rabbits.
Yeah.
Shoot with a 12 gauge.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I definitely like to try that. I've never shot a shotgun before, so I think that'd be kind of cool.
It'll make your shoulder sore
Yeah.
because it's like it's a really good kick, but it's so much fun.
What does gauge mean?
It's the amount of pellets in the shell, right?
Yeah, it's the diameter of the shell. So a 12 gauge shell, it's
Or
like
the pellets.
it's like
yeah.
long and
Yes.
yeah, it's larger,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the shotgun, you have a choke. So the choke will like narrow it down to a certain degree.
So they don't come out just like this. They come out like pretty
Right.
clustered.
Yeah. So you can change your choke depending on what you're shooting.
Yeah.
So mine has a typical choke. I've never changed it. I just have a very basic Mossberg shotgun with a basic choke.
Yeah.
Synthetic stock, so it's not a wood stock.
Yeah.
It's like a plastic stock.
Which
That's all I need.
Which I think, I don't know if you have any gun fans listen to this, but I think with gauges that go, so it's like 12 gauge is pretty, I think it's pretty in the middle, but like 8 gauge is like, there's less pellets in the shell, but they're bigger. That makes sense.
Okay.
So like 8 or like 12, so like 16 gauge is gonna be like really, they're gonna be kind of small, but there's a lot of them in there. But then like 8 gauge is gonna be like, they're pretty big, and there's not that many in there. So I don't know exactly what like what you used all that for. I think it's like just more spread, but then they're just not as big though, or not as much spread, but then they're bigger. I don't know if that makes
So
sense.
20 gauge is going to be a much smaller cartridge.
Yes.
So that'd be like for if you're shooting like squirrels and rabbits and
So if you shoot like an 8 gauge on a squirrel, it's just gonna destroy the thing.
destroy it.
Yeah, because it's just like because they're just bigger.
It'll blow it up.
Big choke.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Kind of does. That's cool.
So I'll plan a day and we'll go out to the gun range.
Yeah. Late spring, early summer.
Or on a good winter day where it's 50 degrees.
I have 0 firearms. I mean, technically I'm in poverty, so I can't afford it anyway. I'm happy to pay the bills, but
At some point,
I've
it's kind of like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it gets smaller with the bigger the number goes.
okay.
So
Sure.
that's a 10 gauge is kind of hard to, but like you have like a 20 gauge, 28 gauge, and they're pretty small.
And 12 is like the most common.
Yes, 12 gauge.
if you're hunting like dogs, and
So it's flat.
we'll shoot a 12 gauge. Or if you're doing shooting clays, we're usually shooting 12 gauge.
So if we ever had a like a first firearm to invest in, what would you recommend? Pistol?
I'd invest in.
Something like that?
So my first choice would be for home protection / home invasion, especially after watching what happened in Israel. When you've got people invading your home, killing you, and raping your wife. I know that's harsh. They had no firearms. So after that, after whatever it was, January 8th, like a bunch of Israelis put in for a gun permit, which is surprising that Israelis they're typically not armed. Now they know we need to be armed. But it's hard to be armed in Israel because their government's actually fairly progressive, which is interesting. So it's hard to own a firearm. You have to go through all these processes. Which is America, you have the right to bear arms, Second Amendment. So I would recommend I like 9mm because the ammunition's cheaper, it's readily available, and it's a good ballistic. So if you got a pistol, have it chambered at 9mm, and then you have to decide like what kind of pistol do I want. So for us, I've got a bunch of different ones, but I have one for concealed carry. So for concealed carry, you have to go through a class and get a concealed carry permit, which is through the state. So now I can conceal carry in a lot of different places, and I carry a Walther PPS, which is the James Bond gun, basically.
Yeah.
Shoots really straight, really well.
It's a good gun.
It's never misfired. It's a really good gun.
Was it like a PP7 that he used in the movies?
Yeah, he had a smaller version in most of his movies, which would be fine too, but that's definitely better for concealed carry because it's much smaller than mine. Mine is it's an inch wide, so it's not thick and bulky, so trying to like put it in your back holster or whatever.
How often do you carry it?
I used to carry it almost every day. Now, less frequently. It's hard to carry in the summer because you're like wearing a t-shirt and shorts. In the winter, it's much easier to carry.
I love
You
that.
can almost have like holster on your head with your coat on going. But the recommendation is if you conceal carry, you need to do it frequently or just don't do it at all. Because you don't want to do it every once in a while because then you're not used to it. So you need to carry it a lot and be aware of it and be ready. And I think that's good advice. So if I were to get a handgun, like first handgun, I would just get a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, and then I would just practice at home. So I have what's it called? It's a dry fire system. I can't remember what it's called.
I've seen your room. It's like the little bullet with the laser in it.
But the cartridge is a laser. So you put it in your gun, you rack it, and then when you pull the trigger, the firing hammer hits the end of the cartridge, and it creates a laser and goes out the gun. So you've got a little target in your house, and then you've got your phone on a little tripod, and it's looking at the target. And so you can practice dry shooting at your house without bullets.
Oh.
And then you can say, oh, I keep pulling to the right, so I need to like work on like keeping it center. And then you do that over and over and over again. Strike Force, I think is what it's called. You don't have to have that.
Okay.
But Andrew got it for me for Father's Day or something.
That's cool.
And so then you rack it again, and then you just keep working on, your aim. And so for me, so with a typical trigger pull, you pull, but if you're right-handed, you'll typically want to pull to the right just slightly. And so you can see I'm always pulling to the right. So then you can like work on like keeping it more center, which is fun, but definitely not required.
Have you used it at all? Because I'd kind of like to try that.
Yeah, I used it the other day. You're welcome to use it anytime you want.
Okay, you'll have to show me how to set it up. It'll be kind of cool.
You can just dry fire in your home all day long and work on your target practice. Then when you go out to the range, you'll be much better.
Yeah.
So it's just dry
Without
firing.
spending ammunition and all
Yeah,
that.
you're not
so.
blowing through ammunition. You're just using the little laser cartridge. It's this little thing. You just put in your gun and has a little button at the end. And your firing pin hits the button and hits the laser for like half a second. But then that laser hits the target, and then your app on your phone watches that and sees like it'll give you a score.
So how does it not eject it every time you shoot? Or does it?
So you shoot, the firing pin hits it, but there's no gas recoil from the cartridge.
Oh,
so then you have to rack it again.
Oh, so those
So,
go.
Rack,
I see. Okay.
rack, which normally you'd shoot, it'll rack itself,
And you just
kick
keep
out
shooting.
the
Yeah.
empty shell, put in a new cartridge, and then that's where
So it's kind of like
semi-automatic, you just keep
it's kind of like a Nerf gun. You Nerf's like
Every
the
time.
pocket. Okay, I see. All right, that makes more sense.
But when you're on the range, you're just like, because the gas recoil brings in the new cartridge.
I see. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep. But any 9mm handgun would be sufficient. Then you have to decide like which handgun do I think is going to be better, like a Beretta or a SIG or there's
Glock.
all different manufacturing types. Which that's a rabbit hole too, but
Sure.
there's.
That's
like,
really good.
I like the idea for personal home protection. And then if you have it in your home for personal home protection, then you have to have it stored safe and securely, but at the same time accessible if someone enters your home and you want to be able to like, defend yourself. So I've got a shelf in my house. It looks like a decorated shelf. It's wood. I've got some cologne sitting on top. But if I put a little fob on top, drops down. I've got
James Bond.
James Bond. But you can go to Cabela's and get like a gun safe that has like a biometric, so you swipe your thumb and like it pops up. Those are like $60, $70.
Yeah.
And then your gun's right there. So you could do something like that too. You wouldn't have to have like the secret gun shelf thing that I have.
Right.
And I bought that off of someone who's a fundraiser thing. He built it himself, and which is fun and dirty and all that stuff. But,
Yeah, like we feel pretty safe in our neighborhood, but there is like people across the street that we theorize might be like selling or manufacturing drugs.
yeah.
We don't know for certain. The people across the street from us, there's a lot of sketchy people who pull up and park and just kind of like exist around their house. And then they go, and there's been cops who have like showed up and kind of checked out their house, and we don't know what's going on there, but there was a very vocal dispute that happened between like a boyfriend and someone who lived in the house, and so
They're probably selling drugs.
it was definitely sketchy, and we have our eye on that, and they're literally, 30 yards from us.
Yeah.
So when we're able to afford a gun, we'd like to be able to.
And I'd say guns are not for everybody, but if you feel like you need one, then buy one and then learn how to use it and go out and shoot frequently and just get really familiar with it. So like mine, I can chamber it, I can like lock it out, I can take the cartridge out, I can take the mag out, I can break it down, I can clean it super quick, I can put it back together. But that took some time.
Yeah.
But I got super familiar with it like it was anything else in my house. But for someone that's like, I'm not sure about my neighbors, I'm gonna get a gun. And then like they have a gun, they have no idea how it works. Like I would not recommend that. Like, that's just not a good idea.
Yeah, it's such an, I wouldn't say volatile, but it's such an intense piece of equipment to own.
Yes.
That I do not take it lightly, which
Yes.
is why
Which is good.
I ask your expertise.
Yeah. And if you ever want to go gun shopping, like I'm happy to go with you.
Cool. Would you recommend buying like locally?
Yes, very much so. I'd go to Jerry's Outdoor Sports, locally owned, great guy.
That seems to be the place because it's the biggest, and I assume he knows the most.
And you can go in there, and the biggest thing is to put the gun in your hand. How does it feel? Does it feel right for your hand? Because you might be like,
Maybe some smaller gun.
I really want the SIG P360. And you're holding it like, it just feels weird. It's like not
The weight's
weighted
on
right.
it, yeah.
Or like my hand's too big. So Andrea has a P365. So that was designed for carrying for 365 days out of the year. So it's an all-around unit.
Okay.
I can hardly hold the thing, it's so small. So it's like, that's not really,
But it's for like for a woman.
it's like a backup gun
yeah.
for a woman, basically.
Yeah. It's just a smaller gun.
It's dainty.
It's very dainty.
Isn't part of one of the mags in it like almost part of the handle?
It is.
Yeah.
It's so small that the mag actually contributes to the handle, so you can actually get a pinky
Yes.
on it, which I can't quite get my pinky
And
on.
I think we also have an extra mag for it, which doesn't have that part. So then when you put another mag in, you're just missing that bottom part. So it's just like, you're like, oh, okay, kind of holding it weirdly, but yeah.
But if we
It's
went
fun,
out
though.
and you got to shot, you got to shoot all the guns that we have, you get a feel for like, all right, so Greg's like larger handgun that's still, it's narrow, but it's still a full handgun. How does that feel compared to Andrea's? And then we have a P320, which is be a full handgun that's geared for competitive shooting.
so
I'm gonna
cool.
go compete in my shooting. That thing's super fun to shoot. It's super well weighted. We put an optic on it.
It's the
like,
coolest gun ever. So cool.
You wouldn't like conceal carry that because it's just too big. It's bulky. It's got like a sight on it. You
Yeah.
just wouldn't use that. But for home protection, like for some people, for home protection, they just get a revolver,
Yeah.
That would be bad.
and then you just point and do this.
Yeah.
And with that, you could actually get a cartridge that instead of having a bullet, it has shot, like a shotgun.
Oh yeah.
So I have one of those in our home right now. It's like a 357 mag.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone invades our home, I could shoot at them. But if I miss, I don't have a large projectile going through 4 walls and out the house into my neighbor's house. Instead, it's like a small little shotgun shell. So if it hits the person, it'll throw them across the room, but it's not going to go into all of this room. So that's stuff to think about too. It's like, what do I want inside my home for just home invasion?
You said that's 357.
That's what I have. But you could even have that in 9mm.
But that's a certain cartridge you have, though, right?
It's a certain
Yeah.
cartridge.
Yeah,
It's
so
a-
it's
it's a
you have
bullet
to buy
that
the
goes
bullet.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like a little mini shotgun shell. You can see like it's got the normal like brass, and at the end it's got like a little glass piece with like little BBs in it. And so that's great for home invasion because you're not going to kill your kid in the next room.
Yeah.
But that's not great for like target shooting.
No.
So you have to think about all those different things.
That's probably why shotguns are so popular for like home protection.
Yes.
Because you don't have a stray bullet going through like 4 walls. But
But the
it's
problem with the shotgun is
they're
you got
big.
you got a long gun. So
In
you
a
can
small
rack
force.
it, which sounds ominous. Like if someone invades your home, you're like, shh. It's like, cool.
that could actually just drive them out.
That
They
could be a huge deterrent.
Yeah.
So like Jake, my brother-in-law, they've got a shotgun in the home, and Sarah's used it a couple times where they've heard stuff in the house when Jake's not there, and she's like, shh, shh. Kids are in her room. She rounds, or she, racks around.
Yeah.
Whatever was there is gone. She never had to shoot anybody. But if you have to like shoot, and you're holding a rifle, like that's a big deal. Whereas it's a
cumbersome.
pistol, you're here.
Yes.
Yeah. So it all depends on what you're
Yeah.
hoping to accomplish.
And like, we're hoping to move into something of a bigger home soon, but like, as of right now, if I were to invest in something, it would be something very small,
Yeah.
That's what
Nimble.
I'm getting.
nimble, mobile.
I'd get a semi-auto pistol, chambered in 9mm. Yeah, that's where I'd start. And then go out and shoot it a bunch. And just have fun with it, get to know it. And then in your own home, just play with it a bunch, like take it apart, clean it, put it back together. Just get really familiar with it to where it's like almost like secondhand. Like, I just know what to do with this thing. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, I think
The
I'm
smoke is mostly cleared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're about 10 o'clock. We're good?
I think so.
Yeah.
Dad, I sent you a bunch of those Wendigoon videos.
I saw that. Thank you. I'm gonna go down a rabbit trail.
Oh yeah, no particular order, they're just good ones. I sent you the first of the Cryptid Iceberg videos, just to get you started. He's still releasing those, he only has 2 videos out. Lost Books of the Bible, it's a good one. Ghost Lights of Appalachia. That's a really good one, I think you like that one. Paradise Lost, and he does have Ducks About the second book as well on his channel.
Okay.
The entire Conspiracy Theory Iceberg, that one's gonna be a while.
Which is, like 8 hours long.
Dante's Inferno, he also has the other 2 books as videos, and then 9 Types of Biblical Angels. So,
All right.
Yeah, like, I remember watching him do the Dante stuff, and
Yeah.
like, he was moved to tears
I know, it's-
around the time that like Dante let Virgil let Dante go through,
It's so sad.
and like him being like moved to tears at like the moment that happened in the story, and I'm like, that's my guy, but we're in a weird era of content where like, you are very used to, and like me too, to a certain degree, very used to this like orchestrated like Netflix, streaming type of thing. But to be honest, some of these small indie creators on YouTube are making better stuff.
Yes, they actually make really good stuff.
And so like,
I love it how
I don't know if
it
you've
is.
I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Wendigoon stuff that we've talked about in the last, year and a half, but
I have not consistent. Is there anything left in there?
in what?
I think it's a canter.
There's a little bit. It's kind of weird to see. I mean, probably for you, but it's weird to have like a mid-20-year-old talk about all this stuff, but like
Not at all, actually.
like that's his job, and
Right.
so like, and he loves it, and so he dives into all of this weird stuff, but like his channel is a gold mine
It is.
of fantastic resources. So
I'm thrilled when he posts a new video.
Which there's very few people that actually commit to that level.
yes,
And he was able to, and he's probably compensated
he's
for it,
made a
which is
living
great.
off of it.
I love
And
that.
people are having him on their podcast to talk about this stuff. And
He's like their Bible guy.
yeah, and like people will have him on, and he will wax poetically about Daniel, and they'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I thought the Bible was all
Yeah.
all this stuff, and you're making it seem all like interesting. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, lo and behold.
Yeah.
But now that he started on the cryptid stuff, maybe check those out because they're very new. And
Coming
maybe
up still.
I'm very interested in this.
I
You can
Haley's
see the
wa-
quality difference between all the videos, but I still think they're all gold.
Haley's watched some of the cryptid stuff. I haven't. Did you say Sasquatch is like
So
tier 2, the second video?
So, I think it's, so he talks about Bigfoot in tier 1. I know
Okay.
that. But he talks about like Yeti and like skunk ape and stuff in tier like 2.
Okay, so
And he's also doing a tier list at the same time while he's doing this.
it is an iceberg.
Well, no, yeah, but he's also like, so it's an iceberg, so he'll do the iceberg, he'll talk about whatever creature it is, and then he has a tier list, and he'll make that tier list, and he'll be like, well, I like this creature, but you know, it's just essentially just Bigfoot, but in like Florida, I'm gonna put it at D tier. So he's making his own tier list while he's
Okay.
covering it, so at the end, he'll actually have a finished tier list.
Bigfoot in Florida is not as good as Bigfoot in Appalachia.
Essentially.
Okay.
But,
Which
but-
I would agree with that assessment.
and he did the same thing with Yeti, but then he put like Mothman and the Wendigo like way up, so because they're super cool.
Yeah, I mean, Wendigo,
Yes, well,
he loves the Wendigo. So if you
those are still coming out.
if you manage to watch his
You
his
can
new
listen to them.
cryptids
You don't really need
videos,
to watch it. Yeah.
I'm curious to see what you think.
So I'm still watching David Plays,
Yeah.
Talked about some of this stuff too.
but it's a little dry. And he's mostly just doing like missing people, but it'll be for like, oh, so this missing guy from 1942. Here's the story. You know, it's okay, but I'd definitely went for something more meaty like that.
He does I don't know if he still does, but he used to do a podcast with another YouTube channel called the Lore Lodge
With Aiden Mattis,
with Aiden, yeah.
Okay.
And Aiden is super into the missing 411 stuff. He does a ton of videos about individual 411 cases.
I don't think he does it anymore as much, but
Okay.
he's done a couple he's at least done one video on his channel with Aiden Mattis where they talk about missing 411. You know, he's done 2 videos about missing 411.
So this guy definitely exists in that
Yeah,
framework.
in
So
that- in
I'm
that
curious
realm.
to
Yeah.
he
see
does
what you think of him.
Yeah, he has 2 missing 411 videos, is what they're called. So
I'm kind of ready for like my next thing, so I'll dig into it.
Sure.
I had to think of it.
Cool.
Because even the blurry creature guys, like they kind of keep interviewing like guys that are hosts of other podcasts. And I'm kinda-
The well's running dry unless they change something.
it feels like it.
I think you really like him, Dad.
You're so and so from this podcast. Like, all right, so
Which is it's hard in this like fringe thing to find new stuff, isn't it?
that's true.
It really is.